So we're back in the building. We are live from Facebook, YouTube, Twitch TV, Instagram. So hello to everybody that's tuning in, that's going to tune in. Let me get rid of some of this stuff. Let me make sure that you all are able to see me. I hope this isn't loud. There we go. There we go. So how's everybody's week been? We've made it to another week. I don't take that for granted at all. And I'm excited, man. I'm excited. This is Juneteenth, as a matter of fact. I just had to make myself public. I'm sorry. Don't know why I have to do that all the time, but either way, we're here. We're live. We're well. All is well. Um, again, it's June 19th, Juneteenth. There are a lot of the world is recognizing it. And man, we're honored, man. Let me know when you come in if you can hear me, if you can see me. We're going to have a couple of guests on tonight that's going to talk about it, give their thoughts, and y'all, I'm excited. I'm also going to put a link in the chat because I want to talk to you all about Acorns, an investment app, real quick. So, again, if you come in, if you don't mind, just letting me see who you are. I will not embarrass you. I just want to speak to you, regardless if you're on YouTube, Twitch TV, Instagram. We're live, and I don't understand why I'm not able to see myself on Instagram. But either way, if you don't mind, it's like we got a couple of viewers. So, y'all, it's Juneteenth. To some that know about it, my wife and I was talking today. To some that know about it, um, it's not new, but it's new to a lot of people. Um, for years, man, I grew up and we were taught the 4th of July was our Independence Day, and it's a lot of hey De'Ara, hey y'all, I'm just not seeing y'all's comments. Sorry, let me put my phone where I can see it. But yeah, it's a lot of history that we don't know about and we haven't been taught about. Um, Matter of fact, I don't blame my history teacher at all. Hey Holly, I don't blame him at all, but if you fell asleep in class, you just fell asleep in history class. Um, you'll wake up to an F for the semester. Trust me, I know. He will let you sleep. Coach Nikes will let you sleep in class. So, but history as we knew it in school is only a part of history, and some of it, from what I've learned, is not all true. Um, Let me start here. Let me just thank everybody for coming on before I go off the deep end. And I'm gonna try not to get too deep. We're gonna have two people that's gonna come on. If this one guy can come on, I believe he majored in history, so he's gonna have a lot to talk about. But from what I understand and what I've been taught, high school, even when I took some college courses, there was just some history in college because there was, with all due respect, whether you call them melanated, black, African American, Afro American. Um, he taught us a lot of history that we didn't know. And it was just one semester, but that ended up being my favorite class out of all of my college courses. Um, just a lot of stuff we didn't know, man. So Juneteenth, June 19th, June 19th, 1865. That's when the remaining slaves in Texas were freed. So it's a lot of stuff, y'all. I know. Let me say this. It was me and my wife just had a great conversation about Juneteenth today. And there are jobs that are not recognizing it. And it's just kind of crazy to me, man, that they're not doing so. Um, I'm just gonna forget Instagram right now. We're just gonna do Facebook. But either way, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube, how you doing? But a lot of people don't even understand Juneteenth. A lot of, from what I understand, there was one coworker of mine. She was like, she stays in Philadelphia, and she was like, "Man, I did some Juneteenth decorations on the outside of my home." And my neighbors was asking, what was that? You know, they didn't understand it. They don't know. So some jobs are, I'm not going to say they're just getting wind of it, but some jobs respect it more. Some people, some jobs, some organizations, they're just now getting like, okay, the understanding. Um, but it's serious, man, because anytime you have the banks closing, the schools closing, daycares, you have the stock market that was not open today. They're taking this serious, man. They're honoring it. Um, I'm not here to judge who's doing it for the right reasons or no. I'm not even going to go off the deep end. I know that there are some holidays that are pagan. I understand that. I understand that there are some holidays that shouldn't we just shouldn't celebrate. One is, I'm just going to go ahead and say it, Columbus Day. I don't even understand why people are even still celebrating that day. And I was telling my wife some stuff about it today. Some stuff will shock you about him if you're not familiar with him. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but I will say this for those who don't understand or don't know. For one, he did not discover America. If you look at any picture of Christopher Columbus, all of us have seen this picture. Let me say this: all of us have seen this picture where you see Columbus standing by the bank where the water is, and it's as if he's greeting the Indians who's on land. So if they're already on land, how did he discover America? I mean, I can go and discover a house down the street. It doesn't mean I was the first one there. So maybe that's what they're talking about, but he was not the founder of America. You have people that founded it before him. If you want to give credit to Amerigo Vespucci, that was somebody I learned about in history. He discovered it before Columbus, but the Indians were already here. They were here. But Columbus was a savage. For those who don't know, who want to know, this kind of puzzle, like, man, why you feel that way about Columbus? That dude literally took it. Let me again. I'm just going to make this quick. I want to get back to Juneteenth. The Indians, when we use the word greet, they literally greeted and welcomed him. He was a stranger, and they welcomed him to this land that he did not know of, that he just came upon. And because they were so nice, he literally took physical advantage of the women and girls, and him and his people, and killed the men. And I mean, they wreaked havoc as long as they could. He got back in his ship, went back to his land, got some more people, and they came back and physically assaulted, sexually assaulted the women, killed the men, children. Just a savage. So when people are up in arms about us celebrating Juneteenth, I want you to understand we have a reason to do that. It wasn't that anybody got killed or anybody got sexually assaulted. Nobody went through that. The remaining slaves in Texas were freed. Some people will argue and say that's when a lot of the other slaves in the other states were freed as well. It wasn't the 4th of July. I'm not knocking anybody else's holiday on that note, but I'm saying I will not personally celebrate Columbus Day. If Facebook has a problem with that, you just got a problem with it. I'm fine with that. I'll just roll over to Instagram or Twitch TV. But that is, I will not be celebrating that. But Juneteenth, there is a reason why people celebrate it. If you look at what a lot of our people, my ancestors, and for those who are still looking, and I know, again, I understand why some of these subjects are not pushed out. is just not fair in my opinion, when you see the views go down because you're on a subject to whereas people can be educated. Um, but yeah, we're going to keep doing that. It is no disrespect to Facebook or anybody else, but Juneteenth, people are really getting wind of that and really starting to learn. Oh, so that was when a lot of the slaves were freed, at least in Texas anyway. That's what it was originally about, from what I understand. But we weren't taught these things in high school. We was taught basically a portion of it and a lot of other history, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's important. It's very, very important. I don't, that's my son calling. um, but either way, and this is also Men's Mental Awareness Month, from what I understand. And that is something that I really want to talk about. I really want to get on and just kind of hammer that as well. Now that I'm through starting over my words and this slow takeoff, let's go ahead and deep dive into this thing. So let's talk about men's mental health. Women, ladies, queens, do not take anything I say the wrong way. Nothing that I'm going to say is going to personally, purposely, let me put that, offend anybody, man, woman, boy, girl, however you identify. I'm not here to offend. So if tonight is not a night that we just stick on the women and encourage, and this is basically for the men, but I want the women on here because you're going to play an important part. If unless you already know how important you are to us. Um, when my wife, when I'm sitting, a lot of times, well, let me say this: when I'm standing in the kitchen, I may be getting something out of the refrigerator. A lot of times, I'm at the sink. She comes behind me a lot during the week and hug me. Sometimes she just takes my head and rub it. You never know what that does. We have a lot on our mind. We do, especially those that are responsible. And well, let me say this: even those that are going through, we got a lot on our mind. And this is not a race war. This is not me being racist or prejudiced or hateful towards any other group. I love everybody. I might not love what everybody does, even with some of my own people that look like me. What's going on, Larry? How you doing? But women, you never know what that does for a man. Let me rephrase my words. You may not know how deep that goes for a man, but you may know what that does. Something as simple as caressing a man, it goes a long way. There are some men who don't feel wanted at home. There are some men who don't feel wanted on the job. We have a lot that we deal with. I talk to my wife a lot about certain things. I talk to co-workers. One that I talk to more than anybody is a white lady. I don't just I just don't have time for that type stuff to whereas I look at somebody's skin color and hate them. I may have hated what if their ancestor did, I may hate what they did to my ancestors. Not me. I hate that. I hate it. But these people that are walking around now, I'm not saying y'all may not like this, but I just refuse to believe that everybody that doesn't look like me hates me. And I'm not a fool to think that everybody loves me. So let me say this: women, especially black women who we consider black, melanated, please understand we need you. And it's Larry, y'all. Larry could probably tell you, I know he could. We got a lot on our mind all day, every day. Sometimes my wife don't know what to say, and that's the best thing. Sometimes it's not for anybody to say anything because we just got a lot going on. You know, some people have bills to worry about. Some people have bills plus their marriage. Some people have bills plus their marriage, plus their children, plus the job, plus their family, plus just health issues. Plus, then when you put your car into reverse, or if you backed in the night before and you pull out the morning after, if you put your car in drive or your vehicle in drive, you don't know how the police feels about you that day. You don't know how your own people feel about you that day. You don't know how somebody who is of another ethnicity feels about you that day. Truth of the matter is, we've been targets for years. So when you hear what people do, the animation, you're crying about reparations, you don't even understand. I've never asked for it, but yeah, if you look at the fact, and I have to go here. Hey, French, if you look at, today I was looking at something on YouTube, and it was talking about the white female slave owners, and they began to talk about what they went through with their husbands before they owned slaves. They were pretty much lowly in society as well, and this is not about them. I'm just painting a picture. So they were pretty much lowly in society. When their husband didn't allow them to talk, they had to shut up. So they're basically, they weren't slaves, but they were basically, hey, kept in check, if you want to put it that way. Well, they also had to put up with their husbands being satisfied, satisfying themselves with female slaves. They knew it. Sometimes the babies would come out very light. They knew what was going on, so they just had to take it. Well, when they came of power, of more notoriety, gained some more money, they began to own slaves, and they began to be satisfying their desires, if you know what I mean. So from what I understand, they also took advantage, of some of the men in a disrespectful way, if you know what I mean. There was something that they fantasized about. So you got men that went through that. You had men that went through what they call buck breaking, to whereas they get them off the ship, or off from the market, and they purchased the slaves. They weren't considered humans. They were considered animals. So take them off the block and bring them to their new home. And not only do they whip them in front of everybody, especially if you're a big one, but they did what they call buck breaking. So they tied you up to a tree, the master, and if he had same sex desires, he would literally take advantage of the men in front of his family and in front of everybody else, and that killed his morale. You had to go through that, but there were times where they would take the men's wives. They knew they were married to them, and they could do whatever they want to send them back out to the field, or whatever. Or they would pleasure themselves with your wife in their house and send them back to the kitchen. The daughters, they had to be broke in by the slave owner. So I know there's just kind of one set of it, but if you can imagine the mental um, drainage that they put on them, the mental strain that they put on men. And I know everybody's not going through that today, but you can imagine some of the stuff that is still going on. Um, One of my friends sent me a video of a black man that was literally changing the tire on the side of the road, side of the street, and that went from that to him being tased repeatedly by this white female police officer. Um, this man looked like he was in his late 50s, early 60s. And to see that man crying on the hood of his car like a little baby is still going on. So for those who can't understand why we're celebrating freedom, the freedom that happened, now you can pretty much get a picture. We went through a lot, man. We went through a lot, and it's still going on jobs today. Maybe not physically, but emotionally and mentally. It is taking a drain on people that look like me, black folk, melanated people. What do you want to call them? African American, Afro American, the people that look like me, a little bit darker, a little bit lighter, still not being treated as fairly as we should, or fairly at all. And I told y'all about gray areas. I can't stand that. I call them gray areas. You probably never heard of that. I made it up. But a gray area is basically when you know something is going on, you just can't prove it. And the people can stay in the gray area. For example, you can be up, you can go for a position that's higher than what you got now, management, lead position, things of that nature. You don't get considered because of your skin color, but somebody else does because of their skin color. And they can say they're more experienced than you or have more education. You can't prove it. So that's a gray area. You just got to let it roll. So it's still going on. Any type of freedom we get, we celebrate it because we have been treated unfairly. For those that get tired of hearing it, just remember we get tired of going through it. So if it makes you uncomfortable, imagine how we feel, and we're the ones that go through it. The children, today's children, will probably never understand a lot of history. I hate to say it, but a lot of them are not even trying. The adults are too busy to even educate. And it's topics like this and podcasts like this where we get to talking about things like this. If we're not talking about fighting each other, if we're not talking about somebody doing somebody wrong or a husband and wife into it, then it's, hey, the people pretty much, they're not interested. This is, boring. But at the same time, when something happens, then all of us want to get together and claim we're one race until it dies down and we're right back at each other's throat, not supporting. So all of this that we're throwing up the fist and the brotherhood, and man, I don't care if you are of another ethnicity, you ought to be happy to see some type of unity, some type. It shouldn't upset you. If you are Black, it really shouldn't upset you. And I know some of us, we say we need to quit crying about reparations and stuff like that. Well, the Jews got it under Obama. I've never been one to ask for 40 acres and a mule, but I know we're owed that. So yeah, Juneteenth is very important, man. Very important. If anything, we should have been lighting fireworks today. We should have been celebrating today, barbecuing today. Every organization should have recognized it, man. There's no excuse. I'm not upset, but there's no excuse for it. Columbus gets recognized for being a savage and one who took advantage of women and children, killing men, a murderer, an RAPIST, that type of dude. He gets honored even today. But Juneteenth with some people is just, hey, y'all, you never quit, do you, Black people? Well, say what you want, man. Again, I don't hate white, Hispanic, nobody. I don't. But today is about us. It's about being free from that mess. And even still, afterwards, a lot of people were still not free. You're still in a racist, prejudiced country that said, hey, now you can be what we call a farmhand or a laborer still on the farm, and you're still getting treated like crap. What can we say? French, Riri, Holly, Larry, what can you say if you go to a white judge that is of the KKK, in the KKK, and snitch on another white person that's in the KKK? It didn't matter, man. But we still go celebrate the fact that at least they tried to free us, man. At least some people did try. Not all white folks are like that. They're not. Don't let anybody tell you that. Truth of the matter is, I know it's Juneteenth, but like me and my wife was talking today, and I'm going to say me, not her. I'm saying there are some white people that treat us better than our own. That's not what I'm here to talk about tonight. But the truth of the matter is, that is the truth. So I'm not here to bash them. I'm here to celebrate y'all. Hey, Lucy. Hey, Queen. To all my kings and queens, man, I'm thanking y'all for tuning in tonight. No, this is not your hallelujah jump and shout type night. This is more of educating you and edifying you about Juneteenth. It's more about Men's Health Awareness Month, which is June, from what I understand. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Um, when the other gentlemen come on here, we're going to talk more about Juneteenth. But for right now, again, let me get back to the mental health, to the mental awareness of men. This is Men's Mental Awareness Month. For those that may feel like we're going off the deep end there, or okay, we're beating a dead horse, we're really not. I'm reminded today of a dude named Twitch. We called him Twitch. I didn't know of him until my wife, because she danced and she's been in bands and um, danced for years, been in the music industry for years, as far as singing gospel and dancing. And she knew of this guy named, they called him Twitch. He was Ellen's DJ. Um, Ellen DeGeneres, her DJ. And December of 2022, he took his own life. And that shocked a lot of people, man. Because again, sometimes my queens, you never know what rubbing your husband's head, taking his hand and just rubbing his hand, showing him affection. You never know how deep that goes with us as black men, because we're already hunted like dogs out here. Um, everything that goes wrong, we fit the description. We have comedians now that says, they'll do little skits now, to whereas, police will ride up on somebody and ask you, have you seen such and such? We're looking for such and such. And they ask the police, what does he look like? Well, the suspect is anywhere from 4 foot to 8 foot tall, black male, white t-shirt, blue jeans. It's always that. It's made to be funny, but that's true. It's always us that fits the description. Sometimes it's not us, believe it or not. So we go through that. And I'll never forget, man. And this, y'all may say, well, this doesn't have anything to do with it. I remember I was driving a white Mercedes one time. It wasn't my car. I was borrowing the car at the time. And especially because I was using somebody else's vehicle, I was not going to speed in this vehicle. I just don't believe in doing that. Long story short, I hit I-240. I'm sorry, I hit 40 from I-240. It was a car that came speeding past me. I mean, speeding past me. To whereas if you looked at somebody else that you was riding beside, they was looking at you like, man, did you see that? Well, police threw his lights on, pulled me over. And I'm saying it wasn't me. It wasn't me. And just the way that I'm not saying he disrespected me, but it was just wasn't all that professional to me, man. It was like he looked down on me like, man, but again, I fit the description. So don't worry about it, man. I know you saw who that was, but I was the one you could get to. And you all know what I'm saying. It wasn't me. I didn't fit the description other than the white car. So you get profiled out here, queens, the men do. I'm not saying you don't. You go to the jobs and they don't treat you fairly. They put people in over you and they can just treat you any kind of way. You get pennies on the dollar and on a lot of these jobs when you know you deserve more. You've been doing the job longer and they'll have you to train somebody else and bring them in over you because that's their best friend's son or whomever. It's just we still go through that. You go to stores, and if it's not owned by somebody that looks like us, sometimes or a lot of times, they're looking at you like you're about to steal something. I cannot I've never even told nobody this, but I never told my wife this, but I can't tell y'all how many times I've been in a store. And literally, y'all, a lot of times you cannot judge a book by its cover, but y'all would agree with me when I say this. Sometimes you can. Now, really, like you look at me, really, I know you just can't put it past anybody, but really, and you'll have an employee that's snooping around the store, like you just so happen to come on my aisle, huh? And it's like, you just I let them know with one of these, like, like really, and then they're going about their business. Like, man, you don't understand. I can get with some more investors and buy this store, but man, we still go through it, man. So again, you never know, women, what's all on our mind because we're not going to tell you everything. And it's not to be low down to our wives, girlfriends, our families. It's not that. But a black man, I don't know how a white man thinks all the time, so I can only speak on me. But a black man, we know we're strong. We know this. So a lot of times we're trying to figure stuff out ourselves. It's not that we're trying to withhold information, but we feel like we can deal with it, we can handle it. And a lot of times, y'all, you never know. We're on edge, not to hit you. I'm saying we're on the point sometimes where we just want to scream ourselves. We just want to scream. We want to holler. So you never know what's going on with us mentally. I'm gonna say a lot of times. So we need y'all. We need y'all. We need that safe haven. We need that peace when we come home. I'm not talking negativity. I know women want to say, but no, we're not talking but today. With all due respect, we're saying we need you. Regardless if a man gets mad and say we don't, we do, we need you. We need you. Let me see what Francis. Oh, Holly said I remember that guy. Hey Rob, whenever you're ready, man. French said I always look like I'm about to steal something. Yeah, man. I know we're laughing, but that's bad. He's basically saying he goes through it too. If you know, that's my very best friend. That's number one. And if you look at him or me, come on, man. Like, come on, man. And it's crazy. We met at a job, and we're still. Let me say this: what I do and what he does is similar always. We have the authority to hire, and you don't understand. We're more professional than you think. Some people say, "Man, you talk white." No, I just choose to talk right. It's I'm not trying to be anybody else, but I'm more educated now than I was before. You to steal nothing, man. Man, I'd rather not come in a store if I got to steal it. But that's how we're still treated, man. I'm almost 50 years old. I don't have time for that. Why go to jail now? I have never been. Why go now? So anyway, we're still going through it, y'all. We're still going through it. Twitch, when he took his life, I don't know what. Oh, that's on the outside. I'll keep looking at the window. I don't know what was going on. I don't know. Um, but y'all, we need you. Even the children that may be listening. You don't understand sometimes when daddy gets home, even if you felt like daddy hadn't did anything. Daddy lazy, that you don't understand sometimes. Our mind works just as hard as our bodies a lot because our back is against the wall a lot. Some of us who are over 200 pounds, we're looked at as if we can tote the world on our shoulders. And there's a saying, just because I carry it well doesn't mean it's not heavy. Just because I carry it well, it doesn't mean that it's not heavy. It's not a sad topic tonight. It's not. I'm just taking my time. It's just y'all are important to us. And there are some women, and no, I'm not talking about the arrow, so let me put that out there. There are some women who think the world just revolves around them only. You have to understand, we're here too. We got a lot on us. We have to protect. My wife would tell you, if there's any funny sound, I'm up with what I got, and I got to go check that. I signed up to do that to protect her and Prince. That's stressful. but I do it, and I do it with honor. We have to make sure we keep our wives happy. We have to make sure that we say protect, provide, and be priests. Yeah, man, that's our job. That's our job, man. We have to protect, provide, and be priests. Let me see. Let me see. Let me. I believe we got the man with us. Here we go.
What's up, big guy?
How you doing, Rob? I'm doing
All is
great, man. How
well,
about
man.
yourself? Let me scoot over so I can get over here with you, man. How you doing tonight, man?
Man, we finally enjoying some sun here in Michigan, man.
For real?
Yeah, man. I finally got a little sunburn. I've been waiting on this.
There you go. There you go with the fresh shave and everything. I see you, man.
Yes, sir.
Well, look, man, I was just kind of warming them up for you, man. We're talking about Juneteenth, but I was basically just talking about men's mental health because, from what
Oh
I
boy.
understand, this is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. So, um, Rob, man, with you being a builder, contractor, I know, man, church, family, you yourself, family, I'm not just talking about your immediate family, there may be other, man, I know
You
you got
already
a
know.
lot, man, a lot. Um, so man, I was just telling everybody, which you probably heard, for the women that are watching, thank you. To the queens, we need you. We need you. I mean, it's just putting your arms around us, man. It's you never know,
Brothers,
man.
brothers' lives matter too, right?
Come on, man.
Not just black lives, but brothers' lives. They
There you
matter
go.
because a lot of times, listen, ladies, if you out there, if you see a guy and you just give him a compliment, just if you in a space where you can give a hug, give a hug. Brothers need that nowadays. And
Yeah.
I'm the strongest guy you get, but it's very often that, as a priest, a provider, and a protector,
Mm,
um, it's prevalent that, like you were saying, if the intruder is coming in, the expectation is that I'm at the door first.
exactly.
And I know there are women out there, the feminists, who are saying women are equal. And I say, no, they're not. I'm not saying they're less because they're not equal, but I'm
Mhm.
saying they're not equal because at no time do I expect the woman who's beside me to say, I got the intruder last time. And because we're equal, you get them this time
Right.
or this time. Right. I get them every time.
Exactly.
And so the equality thing is out the window when the expectation from the protecting, providing, and being priest is at hand. Now, if men are in your household and they're not doing those things, now that's a whole nother conversation.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
Agreed.
saying?
Hmm.
But yeah, the mental health of brothers. And then it's like, I was talking to some brothers about their love language, right?
Hmm.
And I said, my wife don't understand, blah blah. We studied together. I said, what's her love language? I said, better way, what's your love language? He like, what's that?
Wow.
And so
Wow.
we got brothers who have terminal degrees, meaning PhDs, master's degrees, and they don't even know what their love language is.
Wow.
That's how skewed this whole mental health is for men, because you don't even know what you need, because you don't even know what your
Mm,
language is. Now there is some inherent things that you can take to kind of understand that, but just the whole piece of not even understanding what your language is, because once you understand your language is, you can know why certain things piss you off, why certain things grab you and trap you. You know what I'm saying? Why you get in certain issues that you get into, and even sometimes if it's with your wife, why the two of you just don't match,
mhm.
and how you need to begin to be bilingual in your love language. Think about that mentally for men.
Mhm.
Bilingual in your love language. Well, we're
Wow.
taught to be hard. We're and I heard you say, I was in a Sally store. I get my shaving products from there because they have the best shaving products for me. And When I when the lady follows me down the thing, I just go find another store.
Yeah.
You don't want
Yeah.
anything now because you following me. I don't want to shop from you.
Yeah, man. It just,
And
man,
and
that thing is
then
rough.
so there's that piece. Then there's the piece of, is there a war against black men? And I know this is about Juneteenth,
Oh,
but
that's what we talking about. Talk, man.
the issue is, if black men are constantly at war, how can we not be masculine?
Come
How
on,
can
man.
we not be at the ready position? In the Marine Corps, the ready position was, you're not pointing your weapon, but it's in the semi-pointed position just in case something pops off.
Mm.
And that's kind of where the men are. We are right now, specifically brothers. A lot of us are in a position where we've got the people who are out the community against us just because we, just because of our skin color, just
Yep.
because they're.
Yep.
And I like how Dr. Frances Cress Wells says it. She says that there will be no, there has to be a such thing as white supremacy because genetically, men who are not of color would not survive if there was a genetic race mixture.
Wow.
And she's saying because of that, they're inferior, and white superior is the weapon that they use to remain on earth. And I said, wow.
Wow.
And so white
That's interesting.
supremacy had in their mind, because of their genetic disposition, white supremacy has to occur in order for them to remain on this earth. So
Wow.
just because of who they are, we can expect them to follow us. Just because of who they are, we can expect to see the news report about a brother who stole a donut and got shot. Just because of who we are, we can get pulled over and get shot on the side of the road. And
Mhm.
so, as I'm sitting here on Juneteenth today, I was very disappointed. The city of Detroit they were picking up trash today. Now, Detroit is a major black community, people of color, whatever we call it these days, African American, I don't know. But to see a garbage truck on the day that you're supposed to have Juneteenth on, that was just disappointing for me. And
Yeah,
it's like
man.
it's not.
Mhm.
Then it's like, okay. Then I saw people. The bank wasn't open, but the people were working in the bank. Like they was trying to catch up on all of that stuff, so they were still working. I'm not gonna lie. Today I had to work too because I'm a private organization, and sometimes I have to work on holidays. But that's different than the
Yeah,
public. That's different than public. The banks, the community services, all of those things, they need to be closed on a national holiday, but they're not.
exactly. Exactly. Wow. Yeah, we actually I won't say the name of the company. We had to work today too, man. And
Right.
trust me, there were some people
Uh
who
huh.
didn't look like me. I'm gonna say that. They didn't look like
Right.
me, Rob. And they were like, hey, this should have been an off day. This should have been a paid holiday. Hey, um, since it wasn't a paid holiday, maybe we should start, privately, or should I say, how did he say it, secretly or privately, just logging off? And I was like, nah, nah, nah. Let's do the right thing. But we voicing our opinion, we can do that. But let's do what we're supposed to do. But it was disappointing, man. And Rob, a lot of people don't even understand what Juneteenth is. They don't. They don't even know what it is, man. Um, look like you froze, man. Rob, you still there? But either way,
No, I
uh,
just have some workers are here, so I just wanted to be on mute. Go ahead, I'm
okay,
listening though.
got you. So yeah, it was disappointing, man. We still had to go in and do some things, but it was disappointing to say the least, man. Um, and we weren't the only people disappointed. Regardless if they really felt their way or not, I'm not here to judge that, but it was again, like I was telling them before you came on. We look at what we've been through, and I'm talking about our ancestors, what we're still going through. Today should have been recognized by everybody, man. It should have been recognized by everybody, man. Um, so yeah, that's as big a city as Detroit is, man. That is shocking that they was, still, doing the trash routes, man. That's well, but anyway, men's mental health, man. Mental health. Y'all, I had a friend in high school that his wife found him in the closet. He had took his life, and they didn't see that coming too much. They really didn't see that coming. He wrote a note and everything, but I think his daughter was maybe 2, 3 years old at the time. So y'all never know, man. You just never know what we're going through. My wife asks me all the time, Rob, you okay? I mean, it's just normal for her. You good? I'm just checking on you. You okay? And sometimes I'll do like this. I'm good. Then I just turn around like, nah, I need to talk to you. I need to talk, man. I need to get this off me, man. Like, this is bothering me on the job. This is bothering me about the money. And I'm not in trouble, but I'm saying this is the stuff we have on our mind, y'all. Women, believe it or not, we want to do a lot for y'all. Trust me, we want to do a lot for y'all. If we feel that we are limited any kind of way financially, real men hurt. We hurt. Sometimes we get tired of telling people, man, I can't do this today. I can't do that. And it bothers us. So we bottle that in. So what Rob was saying, I wholeheartedly agree with, because we were taught in the neighborhoods. You get around older cats and they're like, man, hey, shut up, man. You being a little punky little sissy. You don't cry like that. You quit whining, man. Even on the basket, quit whining. And it's like, and I literally heard a guy say this twice. We were hooping at a church, and he was like, man, you never find anywhere in the Bible where men are supposed to have emotions. And I'm just waiting. He never said nothing to me, but I'm just waiting. Like I said to myself, if he said it again, man, I got to go in, man, because
It's common
God,
sense, right?
come on, man. It's the
It's just
emotions
common
all through the
sense.
Bible.
That's like
Come on, man.
you don't see the internet mentioned in the Bible. So does that mean that we're not supposed to use the internet? Come on.
Right, right, right.
This is common sense things. We don't see a smartphone mentioned in the Bible. So does that mean that we should still be in a
Come
situation
on,
where
man.
we're not using smartphones? Come on.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
here's the ultimate thing. The thing says that Jesus wept.
The shortest verse in the Bible.
Right. And so he, as I understand it, he wept because his friend had passed away. And
His
so
friend.
and so we have to have some form of responsibility when we're teaching. And I can understand why the feminist side were saying there's a such thing as toxic masculinity, although I don't believe so. I think that there is just toxic. So you're masculine and you can be toxic, or you're masculine and you cannot be toxic, but it's not toxic masculinity. The
There you go. I like
because we haven't coined the phrase toxic femininity. You get what I'm saying? So there's
right.
it's like the term the Middle East. Is there Middle West? You know what I'm saying? These are made up terms that really have no
Oh
credibility in
man.
our lives,
There you
and
go.
they're used to pinhole usually men of color.
Yep.
Because I don't really see toxic masculinity used about any other people.
And you're right. You're right, man.
And that piece is the piece that we've got to begin to be centered on. How do we get out of these things, and then how do we teach our sons to in a situation where a lot of men are being feminized for whatever reason, whether it's because of the alphabet community, whether it's because they're code switching because they feel like they have to change how they interact with society so that they can financially gain because they don't want to seem brutal or brutish to environments, speaking their piece, not being listened to, all of those things. They're
Oh yeah.
consistently at the forefront. I was telling the guys that I'm working for now, I'm at a restaurant and we are renovating the restaurant. And the
Okay.
owners want to listen to me, right? So I'm saying, do this, this, and this. And so they listened. No, we're not gonna do that. So I put it on. I put it in writing because I said, "I'm. You guys hired me as the professional, but because I'm a person of color, you don't want to listen, right?" And so, okay, I put it in writing so that I'm putting it in writing so that when we finally come back to it, that not that I say I told you so, that you're gonna have to admit that this was the best course of action. And so what happened? It's week one. No, they don't want to do it. Week two, nothing. Week three, they're meandering. And week four, you know what? We need to do blah blah blah.
Wow.
I just handed him the email. What did the email say? The same thing he said. Everybody's quiet. Nobody said you were right. It took us 4 weeks. Now, had they listened to me, they would have saved $20,000. But okay, I'll do what you gotta
Wow.
say. Do right. Those are the issues.
Yeah. 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 And and it is a lot of times, man, we it's hard for us to prove certain things, or like you say I told you so. And man, it's we have to bottle that in. Well, but let me ask you something, man. I'm gonna switch gears here just for a second. Juneteenth, um, from what we are taught, June the 19th, 1865 was when the remaining slaves in Texas was freed. Um, so Rob, if you don't mind me asking, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot. So if Rob don't know, if anybody knows, what was the original date, or what was going on before June 19th, 1865, that the people, the slaves in Texas weren't freed, and what's going on with this 4th of July? You know, because all this stuff is kind of running together, man. Like people were telling me, man, y'all celebrating. This was years ago. You celebrating 4th of July. We wasn't really free then. And it's like, huh? No, we weren't free. You celebrating the Independence Day, not for us. And it's like, I don't understand what you're saying. Then Juneteenth comes about, and it's like, okay, so if this was about Texas, what about Tennessee? What about Mississippi? What was going on in these other states? If this is, for people that don't know, if this is about Texas, or is it just about Texas?
So Juneteenth is a myth to me. I'll tell you why. Because if you look
Okay.
up right now, there are some states that didn't accept the Emancipation Proclamation until like 1976,
1976.
not 1876. So if you look at just any of the listeners out there, Google when the Emancipation was ratified by certain states, and you will see. And we're talking about the Emancipation Proclamation because that's one of the things that actually freed people from slavery, right? And so if you look at it, there were some states that did not accept the Emancipation Proclamation at all for the first 100 years. And so for us to talk about Juneteenth, maybe in action
Whoa.
there were not people who were slaves, but on the books, slaves, being a slave was still a thing for almost 100 years later. Now, here's the thing.
Okay.
Most people don't understand that the Emancipation Proclamation really took the worker on the plantation yard, who we call a slave, but we can transport that word to employee. We can argue about why I'm saying that later,
Okay.
to being an employee of the United States of America. And so, in my opinion, slavery never ended. It was just transferred from one slave master to the other.
Mm.
And then the other piece of it is that uh, the essence of the 13th Amendment says that it outright says that in certain situations, people can still be. And most people don't know this. And so, for instance, if you have a felony record, you can be considered a slave, not just because you're in jail, but because you have a felony record. So, for all of those 29 million men of color out there who have felony records right now, double check what I'm saying. Go to the 13th Amendment, and it says, for those individuals who have committed a crime of a felony, you can be considered a slave.
Wow.
And so the issue is, Right after 1865, what we saw was they had vagrancy rules. And those vagrancy rules, they were codes and statutes. And those codes and statutes caused individuals to get felonies. And guess what they end up being again? Slave. That's where chain gang come from. That's where the road commissions come from. That's where the building commissions come from. They were using free slave hands because the people were now, they went from being on the plantation to being in jail for minor crimes. You were standing there waiting on the farmers to come pick you up, just like you will see in DC. A lot of the Mexican people, they'll stay at the 7-Eleven and I'll swing there. If I need extra help, they'll help me when I'm building in the DMV area. Well,
Yeah.
that's the same thing that they did in the South, and but they were arrested for vagrancy and rules that were related to that. And so, in some of those cases, if a cop hits you and you try to stop, you were resisting arrest, that becomes a felony. And so now you went from being a slave effectively to now being a slave of the judicial system. And so the question is, when will we repeal that? For instance, I've got plenty of friends who have felonies, great guys, some of them work for me. And the thought is that if you've served your time and you've paid for what society said you need to pay for, why could you, why should you still be considered or still be in a position where you can be utilized as a slave? That should be illegal. And so for me, it's those little things. And so Juneteenth, to me, we've come far, but we haven't come far enough. We need to go further than what Juneteenth is doing. I mean, just think about really what Juneteenth is. We have something called Sweeties Day here in Detroit, and what that is, I think it's for guys, and the girls can buy their guys what the guys would normally buy those on Valentine's. And so Hallmark makes
Okay.
about $5 to $10 million in the Michigan area just because it is Sweeties Day. And I'm saying the true the true people who are really benefiting from Juneteenth is the Walmarts and the Targets and the Home Depots, because they're selling the paraphernalia at a high rate. When you really think about Juneteenth, that's what you really start to see. I mean, it'll be no different than the Fourth of July, no different than Labor Day, Memorial Day, and I think that but that's really what we need to start looking at. How do we begin to, get monies from it that can help our community? Because when you think about like certain things like the Holocaust days, they're raising
Hmm.
millions of dollars to help to satisfy what atrocities happen to their community. And because of that, their communities are becoming healthy. Now, the question is, can we do the same thing for our communities to make our communities healthy? And that's what's important.
Wow. Wow. Man, I got to go back to this 13th Amendment, man. So this, I'm sitting there I was trying to read it, man. It's just not clear to me, Doc. I'm gonna be honest with you, but man, that's man, that's a trip, man. So it's basically saying if you're a felon, you can basically be considered a slave again. Wow. Oh man, I'm kind of scared to ask you what you think about Lincoln, man.
I'm on a
Yeah.
sorry
So
about that,
anybody else,
guys.
y'all looked at the 13th Amendment? Oh, no, you're fine. You're fine. That just got me there, man. That 13th Amendment, man. That's wow. Wow.
So then we have to look at, there's some other things we have to look at. And that is, if Lincoln had slaves, was he really the president that was for, um, doing away with slavery? Some people say it was because of the textile industry, and here's I have some alternative thoughts on it. As I'm studying more and more, I'm seeing that what we were calling slaves may not have actually been slaves. They may have been people who were hired as employees, and those employees had the opportunity to indenture to the people who they were working on the landmass. Now, some people are going to go back on me and say, well, are you saying lynches didn't occur? Are you saying that people weren't whipped? I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying I'm open and I'm not accepting the European version of basically, first of all, that all individuals who were said to be slaves were slaves. I'm saying no to that because I have family members from the South who were never slaves. I have family members from the South who know people who were black Confederate Army soldiers and who did that not because they were told by their slave owner to do that. And so that's what we were taught in high school, in elementary, that, you know, the blacks who were, all the black regiments who were there were fighting for their slave owners. And I'm just thinking about this. So you're telling me a persons or persons like you and I who were slaves were going to go to war to continue to be slaves? That piece of it just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't,
And
man.
we need to start having conversations around the obvious holes in the stories that we've been taught and be able to openly question some of those things and come up with alternative solutions to these stories. Like understanding that they were black counties and non black counties in the South, and that non black counties may have had people who were absolutely positively free and never have had been slaves, which is a pejorative that we never talk about. What it meant to
Hmm.
be more than three, five, six, or three-fifths a person, based on having the ability to be a person of color and owning land. Now the question is, were there men of color like you and I who owned
Hmm.
land and who had the ability to vote? And we know the answer to that is yes. How do we know that? Because it would have been impossible for the most senators, the most congressmen, the most lieutenant governors, the most governors to become that in 1865 to 1890 through what we call in history the antebellum period. First of all, if they didn't know how to read. First of all, if they didn't know how to sign themselves up to get on the voting schedule so that people can vote for them. Secondly, so that individuals could accept them, a person of color, on the voting ballots, people of color and people who were not non-colored vote for them. How did that happen?
Mm.
And so for me, we've got to start questioning even this whole base that we talk about. And so, this whole Juneteenth thing is one of those things that I'm excited about because it brings these questions to the front. And I don't want us to, to get the red, the yellow, and the green flag that I think it represents. I think it maybe sometimes it's black in there too. That it represents, and then just because you fly that, it's Juneteenth, we're free. I want to talk about the other things. I want to talk about there were probably 80% of the Americans who were people of color who were never slaves here, who were already here before Columbus got here. And we need to start discussing those things.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I'm
most definitely.
saying? So
Most
Juneteenth,
definitely.
while it is a great thing, and while, the people in Texas, they've always done their things different. Texas is not even on because America's electric grid, their own single grid. They're able to step away from America if they need to. And that's actually why I like Texas. I'm for Texas. So
Yeah,
those are
yeah.
some of
You
my
you heard about
my
what's going on now, right?
what's that?
With the wall thing, the not the wall thing, but the border. Have you heard
So
about
Texas,
what was
yeah.
going on about a
So
month or two?
So Texas is putting up the walls because they're now saying that we're getting overrun by people who are coming in the country for free. Now, here's the thing. Do I think that people should come in the country? I do. I think that if you have a system that says this is how you come in the country, then that's how you should come in the country. Now, I'm not saying that's Democrat or Republican. I'm just saying the neutralization and ionization rules were created for a reason. Now we can see why. Because if you go to New York, it's inundated by people who came over the border. If you go to Texas, and I think Texas was saying, hey, our penal system is getting overrun, our social system is getting overrun for social services. We can't serve these people, and the president is telling the people to come here and to keep the borders open, but they're not making provisions for these people. Now they're finally making provisions for these people, like in Chicago on the South
Yeah,
Side. I saw some of my friends on Facebook, and they were saying these were people who were not conservative. I'm conservative, by the way, but they're not conservative in Chicago. And they're saying, you know what? We're going conservative because now we understand what Trump was saying. Because what he was saying basically was that the people are going to run and inundate cities, sanctuary cities, and those sanctuary cities are going to displace those people who already don't get fair services. So Chicago is one of
mm,
those people. Policing is overrun by crime and corruption. At the same time, you've got
wow,
the youngsters who are there who are carrying because they don't feel protected. At first, I just thought that the youngsters was just about mayhem. But as
yeah,
I'm in the streets of Chicago speaking to those youngsters, there are people who are fearing for their lives. There are
wow,
people who are saying, "Yo, where did you get your gun from?" There was a crate of guns in the alley. We went and got the crate. We went and got them out the crate. Okay, so then Mr. Rob, we didn't put the guns on the street. We don't even know how to buy the ammunition for these weapons. There's plenty of it on the street. How did it get there? And so you've got that
wow,
issue. You've got corruption in the police department. Now you've got city housing individuals in they're housing individuals in the school system where the children are going to school, in churches, in places that are social services run, where the people are actually sleeping and laying their head. And this is not like 5 or 6 people, because I understand when that happens. I understand when it's 20 or 100, but when it's 3,000, 4,000 people who are misplaced, and can you imagine what's about to happen this winter in Chicago? And
oh
so these
man,
are
that's
the things.
man.
Yeah, so I'm not with the whole border thing. Do I think people should be treated inhumane at the border? No. I'm not for inhumanity. But what I am for is that if you're going to come, you got to keep the rules. If those rules are in place, you've got to understand them, meaning that you should speak the language. Now I'm finding out. I just found out 2 weeks ago that English is not America's official language. Did you know that? We don't have one.
No,
I
I
was
didn't know
told
that.
I was told by neutralization and ionization that we do not have an official language in America. It's just assumed because most of the people in America speak English. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. But let me say this too, Rob. Now, you hit me with something. I didn't know that, man. Um, I want you to get back to what you just said, but on the border thing, there's a flip side to that too. From what I understand, what Biden is doing, he is allowing us to come over for voting purposes. So he's saying he basically threatened Texas, like, "Hey, if they want to go to war, we go to war with them. If they don't want to open up the border." And the thing that's happening in Chicago too, from what I understand, and this may not be in totality, but from what I understand too, um, they've allowed some of those people, a lot of those people in Chicago as well. And from what I understand, some of these people are hardcore criminals, man, from other countries. Um, but they're bringing them over here, man. I mean, just allowing them, and it looks funny, Rob, when it's no women or children. It's just all men.
That piece. And so here's the thing. I just talked to some Venezuelans.
Okay.
They were asking me for a job, about 30 of them. Of course, I can't hire 30 people just all at once. I hire 7 to 17 people. When I go from 17 to 70 people, it's because the job is really large. And
Yeah.
so the Venezuelans say they came from jail and they traveled to America by way of the Mexican border, and they got here from the Venezuelan jail. And so I said, the Venezuelan jail?
Wow.
They said, yeah. So check this out. They started, people can fact check me because I fact checked them. They said, our Venezuelan jail has snack bars, we have food sources, we got swimming pools. I said, what? They say we got nightclubs. I said, what? And so
I've seen that. I've seen
they're
that. Yeah.
doing jail totally different over there. And
Yeah.
so I took a look at the online information about the Venezuelan jails, and I'm like, well, if the jail is like that, what is the country like? You know what I mean? And I just didn't know. I had been to Venezuela before, but I just didn't know. And so when I say that individuals are coming across the border, they're coming across, and like
Yeah.
you said, they are a high percentage of them. I'm not spoken to them all, so I don't want to make any stereotypes, but a high
Yeah.
percentage of them, according to the Venezuelan people I talked to, are criminals. And out of the 30 of them, 17 of them were criminals. They were coming from the penal system.
Wow. Wow.
And
Man,
and
that's
then
yeah, yeah.
here's what the issue is. They said that the 17 of the 17, I think 3 of them are already in jail in our state here now already. And the reason why I say it is because they thought that our jail system was the same as theirs,
Mm.
and it's totally different. Ours is a discipline based, inhumane based,
Rat infested. Yeah, all of
rat
that.
infested,
Yes,
roach
sir.
infested. You got to use the bathroom in front of the 1,000 people type system,
Hmm.
and they're not used to that.
Yep. Yep.
And here's the other piece, and I think this is what's going to bite back on the Biden administration, and that is, does the will the people backgrounds vote for liberal people? And I say that's going to bite them in the end, because if you've ever been to the Central America or South America, for the most part, the people are very conservative and they're family oriented, and they don't, although they accept you if you're a part of the alphabet community, it's not something that is overrunning their countries. And so when people start to understand which parties align with them, they're going to see that there was called mi familia. Their family lines are going to line up more with conservatives, I think. And so I think that the whole thing to um, get more votes, I don't think it's going to serve the Democrats like they think.
No, not at all. I don't either, man. I don't either. That's going to backfire on them very hard and very quick. As a matter of fact, man, just getting back to what you said about 2 minutes ago, from what I understand, man, those people in Chicago, they there was some building, for example, because Robert Humphrey sent it to me, but there was a building that they were building for something that had to do with the community, the children, or something. Well, they disrupted that plan and put the immigrants in there, and they say these people been, man, when I say disrespecting women physically, and they over here wilding, man. And it's bad, man. And again, it's our community,
And
from what
here's
I
the
understand.
thing. A lot of the sovereign citizen, there's no such thing as sovereign and citizen. They're oxymoronic to each other, the terms.
Mhm.
But they're saying that the court systems don't have jurisdiction over certain people. Well, if you've been around, you can Google it. You will start to see that because the people are from another country, our penal codes, for the most part, don't have jurisdiction over them. So, on crimes like you're speaking of, these guys are being re-released back into the public. And
Wow.
so what they were hoping to see was that we're going to have race wars. And here's the thing that I want all Americans to know about right now. They're saying by 2030 that the African American household's financial status will be zero
By 2030.
by 2030. And so, if that's the case, then what they're saying is that they're letting people in to replace us in the workforce. And so, if that's the case, now we've got to be a higher level of entrepreneurial spirit and a higher level of interaction with businesses that we own, only serving the people that look like us for reasons to keep our monies in our own community. And that's going to be an important thing going forward if they're pushing to have us have a zero income household by 2030.
Wow.
Because we already know that cryptocurrency and smart contracts are going to take over for lawyers, HR, accounting, all of those middle class white collar jobs. We see that AI is taking over for the trade jobs. And so the question is, how do we begin to exist in the community when we don't own anything? We don't own any banking infrastructures. We don't own any food marketing infrastructures. We're the lowest per capita for farm. We own a lot more farmland than people think, but we don't farm it. And so now the question is, how do we begin to get back to those basics at the same time, stay civilized, quote unquote? And so the African American community has an uphill battle that I think that we need to begin to start to network with other communities. Like one of the communities that I like working with is the Indian community, specifically those Indian communities from the south of India. They get along very well with people of color. They're very educated, and their households, according to the new census, they're the highest paid per capita households in America right now. And so we've got to now begin to bridge these gaps with other communities that are being smart with how they invest in infrastructure. And we have to look at them as an example and then do those things. And the whole Juneteenth thing is going to be important for us because we need to now come up with an initiative and a platform, whether you're Republican or Democrat, whether you're LGBT or you're straight, whether you like Ohio State or you like Michigan, together, and we've got to do things that will unify us across the board and have a platform wherein if you're not addressing our platform, we're not giving you any attention. But we've got to agree what that platform is, and right now we haven't. But I would say we would start with food and water and shelter. Because
Yeah.
if you look at the situation with most people of color, I think 73% of people of color in America rent. 98% of the
Wow.
people of color don't own their own food. They got to buy from someone else. 100%. Well, we've got seven black banks, so I guess those seven black banks make up 2% of the banks in America. So we've got 2% of black banks, but we don't bank with them because they're not local to us and we can't access them when we need them and open
Yeah.
an account with them and they're not local. So it's all of these plethora of things. And we've got to, and
Goodness,
here's the
man.
solution though. The solution is shows like yours, Clint Speaks. And this is why you're so important to me. You're important because we have to keep these things at the forefront of people's minds. Because right now, we're
Yeah.
worried about whether Kyrie beat Tatum, or we're worried about
Yep.
what Trump said or what Fannie Willis said in the courtroom. And to be honest, none of that has to do with us coming together and creating a platform. I asked the Indian community,
Right.
half of them vote Biden, half of them vote Trump, right? And I said, how do you guys get together? They said, we don't care who we vote for. These are the things that we do that our community can be strong. We build businesses together.
Yep.
We come and we have fun together. Our wives cook together. And these things build strong communities. What are your communities doing? So I just have to be quiet. Now I'm a part of
Man, that's
the
embarrassing.
Adventist church, right? The
Yeah.
Seventh Day Adventist Church is a sub niche, it's a religion, and I'm a part of that. I've grew up on fifth generation. Now, when I totally immerse myself in that system, because I'm in that system, I have a system that I can kind of go to, and it's like a sanctuary for me. But
Hmm.
that's fine. That's not a lot of people of color can't do that. They have to believe in that religion. It's a complete system. So I went through K through 12. I went through college in that system. I go through church in that system. There's businesses that I can work for in that system. There are people who run, multi-million dollar organizations who are white, black, Puerto Rican, and Haitian in that system, and they know me for years, and I can get over that way. But that's not helping my community. That's just helping me and those few blacks as it relates to all the rest of the blacks who are not in that system. But
Yeah.
I would suggest those who are not a part of that system check it out, because at least it'll give you a sanctuary and a shelter to understand what the need is so that you can address the need and then begin to evangelize, what we call evangelize in a different way. So,
Yeah, I want you to check out this comment my friend put in there, man. He said the quote unquote stay civilized part will be a challenge, I believe, judging the culture now.
wow. Because here's the thing, civilization is equivalent to domestication, right? And domestication, think about, if you domesticate a wild animal, you're really teaching them not to be wild and to hunt for themselves, but you're teaching them that you're going to go to the store and get cat food or dog food or turtle food or lion food or whatever, and they're depending. So for the lion who's now domesticated, his thought is, well, when the owner comes with my side of lamb, he's just going to throw it over the fence and I'm good. And so that deters him from being a real hunter.
Mm,
And so it's the same thing with civilization. It domestifies people. So for instance, you got people who you you're too busy to go get fast food. Now you have someone else to go get fast food for you to bring it to you. Shout out
yep,
to DoorDash, right?
yep, yep,
And so the question is now it's not just that fast food is bad for you. It's just that I don't have time to go fast enough to get the fast food, so I'm gonna have to hire somebody else to go get that for me.
hmm hmm
So I can't walk. I can't get a bike. I can't use a skateboard. I don't have a moped. I don't have a motorcycle. I don't have a car. I can just get Uber now. This is
yep.
civilization. And so what happens is our rights are taken from us. And quietly, those rights are taken from us. There's a saying, watched a documentary 25 years ago. The child was asked, where does milk come from? The grocery store. Okay. 4 years ago, I'm sorry, 10 years ago, the child was asked, where does milk come from? And the child says, the refrigerator. This is what civilization and domestication does to us. Now,
Mm,
we all know milk comes from a cow. And so, in
right.
the last 20 years, the answer that children are giving is grocery store and refrigerator, not the cow. And so, they're so far
Wow.
removed from reality that, and I'm saying that this lack of knowledge about cow in every area of our existence, from economics, from education, from law, from labor, from sexuality, religion, war, counter war, and politics, that we're just based, most of our children who are 25 or under are soundbite driven. They can't pay attention for more than 30 seconds. The children, the youth that I hire between 18 and 25, I'll tell them something. They'll go back and walk. As they're starting walking, they come back to me and say, "What did you just ask me to do again?"
Wow.
So much so that I have to now say to them to carry an index card and write it down,
Mm,
because their attention span leaves them that quick. And so, man, yeah, it's like your viewer saying, it's one of those things where the civilization part, and then we're talking about civilization for normal things, but then there's civilization for how Bill Gates of the world, how they want us to move forward. I mean, we've got chicken that
Yep.
we're building in a petri dish and selling it as a chicken burger. We've got chemicals in some of the foods. I was looking at the steak. You can your viewers can read this or pull it up on Google or YouTube that you can 3D print a steak now. You can 3D print a hamburger right now.
3D print.
3D print. And not so I was like, am I 3D printing this? There's like, yeah, you can order the printer and do it yourself, or oh, but note to self. The people who are in these restaurants are buying 3D printed meats. And so when your viewer says civilization, man, when they say civilization, this is what civilization comes to. And I've been thinking, as I'm traveling in America, I just got back from South Dakota and Gillette, Wyoming, not even 2 weeks ago. And I was saying, I usually, on that trip, I would usually see a lot of cows. And guess what I didn't see? And I'm saying to myself, where's all the beef coming from if there are no cows?
Right.
And the guy said, we 3D print. We're taking a cow's uh, stem cell, putting in a petri dish, and it grows, and now you got your hamburger. That's how you get your hamburger. And I'm not going to tell you because I have not fact checked it myself, but I believe it to be true that 90% of what's in that petri dish is not something that's healthy for people, meaning that it's something else that's growing that could cause
Oh,
your health bad. So on Juneteenth, these are
oh,
all of the things that we need to start addressing because civilization has given us a false day of worship, a holiday, and to
mm.
take our minds off of, oh, they're finally celebrating that we went through this. No, that's not what they're celebrating. They're sidetracking you so that you cannot pay attention to what the real issues are.
Wow. Wow. Rob, let me ask you this, man. Um, in conjunction to that, I know you mentioned a little while back about the 13th Amendment. Have you heard what's going on now that they passed this bill to whereas those that are young men that are 18 to 20, yeah, about
25, yeah, or
25,
26. Yes.
26, yeah, yeah. So they're automatically to be signed up to be drafted, man. And I was looking at some comments when I first saw it, and people were like, just giving their comments. Some people like, yeah, let's give these such and such something to do since they want to do this. My problem with that, man, is not all 18 to 26-year-olds or 25-year-olds are out here bobbing and weaving. All of them are not out here selling. All of them are not out here gun happy. And
Right.
what about those that are actually that has a good head on their shoulders, man? And I just got to ask you, what do you think about that, man?
Well, the first thing I would say to them is to become a national of your state because a national would not have to legally sign up for the draft. That's not legal consultation, that's just for educational purposes only.
Gotcha.
And so, individuals who want to go to college, who want to do other things than fight for white supremacy, because that's what it is. I was in the Marine Corps, I was a sniper in the Marine Corps, and I'm saying that's what I was fighting for, white supremacy. And
Wow.
so, um, I would say to them that we knew that Ukraine was going to go to war against Russia. We
Hmm.
knew that America was backing the NATO peace. We knew that America went into an agreement with Russia to say that NATO would not be in any of its border countries, but NATO's pushing for that. And so, if you and I make an agreement and then one of us reneges on the agreement, then we back at war.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Hmm.
If we were at war before, or one of us becomes a punk and the other becomes the bully, right? And
Yep.
so both sides are not saying it's not going to be a punk bully situation, so it's going to be war. And so I'm saying to our youth, Yeah, get ready for war. I thought it was already going to happen, and that's why I push for a conservative president, because most conservative presidents, specifically Trump, was saying he's not the person that wants to go to war. And when you look at it, we did not have a war under his watch. When you look at it, we didn't have anybody to test him, because he was like, "You can come do this if you want to, but we ready."
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Biden's like, as soon as my issue with Biden was, as soon as we got him in office, he gave Russia 30% of our we started buying 30% of our oil reserves from them. And so it's like, hold on, you're saying you don't like Russia, you're saying we're about to go to war against them, you're going to support Ukraine, but you're going to give them 30% of our oil business? That's
man.
that's like, to me, that's just, I mean, to me, a sixth grader could have made a better decision. I mean,
Exactly, man. Yeah.
my daughter my daughter's in the second grade. She's 8. If I told her the situation, and so then, because of that, oil went up.
Right.
And so because we stopped buying from them, and so my thought is, those type of things, I know that America is now an industrial military complex. And because of that, our youth better be careful with this draft. I like Tennessee though. And I think Tennessee is leading the country ahead of Texas, because you guys passed a rule that there are no chemtrails in your space anymore. Did you know that? So
I didn't know that.
you guys no longer have chemtrails over your head. It's illegal to have chemtrails in the state of Tennessee in the airspace.
Wow.
Congratulations to you guys.
Wow.
Governor Big Gretch, can you please do that here in Michigan? I asked her when I saw her, she ignored me. Um, and
Wow.
so my next thing is, you guys said that you can't have vaccines and food. That's a vote within the last 4 months on your state Senate and Congress. And so
Mm.
I'm liking the direction that Tennessee is taking. And so whether you say conservative or Democrat, all of that, I like the local stuff, because it's what matters. Now the question is, now that you don't have chemtrails, are you going to see African American communities stop having so much violence? Because they were saying in some of the things that some of the chemicals that they were using in the NIH trial show that individuals get more violent when those chemicals from the chemtrails are in the air, and they strategically do them over urban areas.
Wow.
So somebody in
Wow.
Tennessee loves people of color, because that's a benefactor to us there. And so
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Now, I agree with my friend. We know it ain't Biden. He said, I don't think Biden is mentally and or rationally sound. He's not, man.
No, bro. I
He's not,
mean,
man.
he can't even get through a conversation. He can't even get through
Exactly.
a conversation. Then the question is, well, if you can't get through a conversation with a news agency, how are you able to make red phone decisions?
Exactly, man.
You can't.
Exactly. And it's become a joke now, man. It just looks bad to see him trying, like you said, to get through a conversation. It's you look at him and it's like, man, what are you talking? What, man, sit down, man. Just sit down, man. All of that, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. All that stuff went out the window. It's
It's
first
goofiness.
day in office, man.
It's
Just
goofiness.
yeah, man.
I was with Ice Cube. Okay, let's talk to both sides. He talked to both sides, because that's who I am. I'm. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm more conservative in my position. I appreciate Trump than I more so than Biden, but I'm willing to talk to both sides. But when you tell me, Trump, that you're going to give $96 billion to HBCUs, I'm excited. But when you come in office, Biden, and you take away 94 billion from that budget and only give them 2 billion, then I got a problem with it.
Exactly.
You see what I'm saying? So for
Exactly.
me, it's like, it's these little small things that they do. When you tell me, Camilla Harris, that you're not making laws just for the black community, but you go and make anti-Asian laws just for the Asian community, then I got an issue with it.
Yep. Yep.
So those are basics for me. I'm not even talking that I'm conservative or I'm liberal. I'm just saying what you show me you do. And then I'm supposed to be a Trump worshiper now because I'm using common sense to come to a common sense solution. No.
Yeah,
And it
man.
was it was it
Uh,
was evident to me that Trump was going against the pharmaceuticals, that he was going against the military industrial complex, that he's going against the pornography industry, you know, that he's going against. I mean, what wasn't he going? What wasn't he going against? That he was going against the judicial system. That he's going against the penal system. I mean, he let 30,000 black men out of jail. That's
wow.
never happened in the course
Never.
of that's never happened in the course of and here's why most people in Detroit like him, because he let out Kwame Kilpatrick.
Mm.
Google Kwame Kilpatrick's last stance in on the you can let you don't listen to the news. Google why the governor turned into a judge to come down and to find this guy guilty. Have you ever seen that happen in any other governorship? The governor has
No.
special capacity in her position to be a judge, to preside over certain issues, and she chose to do that so that she can make sure that Kwame Kilpatrick was found guilty in the process.
Wow.
Otherwise, he would have never been found guilty, in my opinion. They would have
Wow.
they would have been years and years. And then here's the thing: if he was a healthy man at the time and he wasn't dealing with all of that mess, would he have had to deal with Obama coming into office and being a cabinet member and now being way more powerful than he is? Yes.
Mm.
And so these things are all timing.
Man, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm not gonna say the name out of great respect, but there was a man who he passed a couple of years ago unexpectedly, but he was so knowledgeable, man. And that man told me, it was just me and him. We were riding in my truck, and he said, "Man, I cannot say this because I'll get castrated for it." He said, "But believe it or not, I would vote for Trump." I think he said he would vote for him, but he did say this. He said, "Man, Trump would be a better president than Biden at the
And
time."
all day long.
And
Be
I
a
was
better
sitting there
president
waiting on
than
him to
Trump.
say why he said that, and he said even Clint, he said even from a spiritual perspective, he said I'm not
Mhm.
saying Trump is spiritual, but he said when you look at biblical principles, if you look at
He
Biden and you look
aligns
at
himself with it. Yes.
exactly,
I mean, we've
exactly.
all sinned and come short of the glory. Come on. I had some people say Trump said 25 years ago, grab him by the blah blah blah, right?
hmm
And I said, listen, it was the Democratic community who was putting him on Playboy magazine, who was calling him the Forbes Person of the Year, who and most people don't know this about Trump, and I know this about Trump because I know people who were in the Black Panther Party who have told me themselves because they were either in the group or in the room when he was there, when the money came, that Trump funded Black Panthers.
What?
That's documentable. And so to say that this guy is a white supremacist, that might be far from what we understand to be the truth. Here's the other thing that I know, and I know this from there's a gentleman who was a president of my country, my spiritual conference. His name is Charlie Joe, and he used to have a gentleman that he hung out with when I was very young. His name is Jesse Jackson. We all know him.
Mhm.
And when I during that time, the president guy, Jesse Jackson was an important guy, and I was so small I got a chance to hang out with him because he thought that I looked like his nephew. And many times he told me to get in the car thinking I was his nephew. And one of the time I was at his house and we went to Operation Push and he introduced me to Jesse Jackson. This was years ago. I might have been 10 years, 9 years old.
Wow.
And uh very influential moment. But what I found out was that Jesse Jackson's when he was running for president, Donald Trump gave him 20% of his monies.
What?
Yeah. So here's the
I didn't know
thing.
that, man.
So here's the thing. When I start to look at see because I was strategically in places where I saw it with my own eyes.
Yeah.
It's just like why Ben Carson. I love this guy. He's a mentor to me under a gentleman who has disassociated himself. Dr. Chris Gibbons used to be his protege, and Chris was my mentor. So my mentor's mentor was Ben Carson, and we went to his house and we ate in Maryland, et cetera, et cetera. We've played pool. Matter of fact, when he came out with gifted hands, I was like, bro, if your hand's so gifted, let me play you in pool. He whooped my butt. And so
Wow.
um, the point that I want to get at is that these men have been mischaracterized. And what we have to do is we have to start seeing people for ourselves. Not because you said you don't like them, that don't mean that I don't have to like them. Like
Yeah.
if Jerry's like I don't like Clint. Okay, Jerry, you don't like Clint. That's cool, but that don't mean that I don't have to like Clint because you don't like him. You get what I'm saying,
Right.
Jerry? And so that's the thing that I encourage people to kind of have their own set of thoughts about what they think, and that's what makes a man. And I'm telling all of these little boys, stop following people and their narratives. Start having
Man.
your own
Thank you.
opinion. Start researching things for yourself. Start having a position for yourself, and then walk on what your square is. Sometimes your square will change a little bit based on new information, and you want that
Hmm. Hmm.
because there's nothing consistent about the world except for change.
Come on, man. Look, let me say this. Let me send a shout out to Amber Boy. We got Jerry here with us now, man. I wanted to bring Jerry on because Jerry is what I call a historian, man. But welcome, Jerry. This is my guy, Robert Johnson, man. So we just want to educate the people on our history, man. But let me say what Amber said, y'all. She said Trump, his best decision as president was to free Kwame Kilpatrick.
Yes, sir. That was one of his best decisions.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I'm with that. Jerry, how you
What's
doing,
going
man?
on? I'm doing all right, man. I wanted to try to catch y'all before the night got away.
Okay.
Um, yeah, had an engagement this evening, but with my dad or whatnot. So I'm here, man. So let's have at it. What's good?
So me and Rob, we got into a big fight, man, and no, we did, but we were
He don't
basically
like
just
me no
talking.
more, Jerry. He don't like
No,
me.
we did, man. We were just talking about Juneteenth, and this is Men's Mental Awareness Month. But um, I know you've studied a lot of history, man. So how do you feel about Juneteenth, man?
I mean, it's a part of our heritage, far as what was done in this country that so many people try to act like didn't happen, but everybody else get acknowledged. The Holocaust, everything else, but when it comes to black folks, it has to be a debate, and I never can understand that because our ancestors built this country for free. No matter what side of the spectrum of politics you stand on, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, whatever, that's a fact that happened. And if you're a person that's a descendant of that, no matter what spectrum you stand on, it would behoove you to acknowledge that, because if you don't, hell, nobody else will. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
um, I think a lot of times now people keep saying, why race come up? Because this is what this country was built on. Colonizers came over to a land that was already claimed and colonized it.
Mhm.
Then our people were brought over here in chains. And, people are trying to whitewash history because they don't want their children to be offended. But shit, what about the children of the folks who are descendants of that?
Right.
And then people, what gets me is people will sprinkle on some religion and manipulate it to justify that bull, and it just it it's really disheartening. And for those who want to fall for the okie doke, so be it. But If to me, if you really care about your children and grandchildren, not only in this election, you'll look at the changes that are going on, or how they're tearing down a lot of advancements that have been made by Black people. Um, and they're not doing it quietly. It's out in the open now. Like, it's just out in the open. DEI, the thing with the Black women business thing that's been, I mean, the on the Supreme Court, the dude didn't know his wife was flying the flag of the folks who did the January. Come on, man. All this stuff is in our face, and no matter what side of the political spectrum you stand on, if you are being true, you see what's going on, and you're determining the kind of country your children, once you go on to the grave, your children's children are gonna live in. So if you love them the way you say you love them, ain't no way in hell you're gonna stand back and let stuff just go like this, because these folks have shown you from January 6th and everything else that keeps going on that they're willing to do whatever it takes. And I don't care, about what somebody's opinion is when the facts are right there. Like, when the facts are there, you can't deny when the facts are there. Now, you can vote or run whatever political party. I'm really independent, but when folks are setting forth their agenda, if you take the fact that there's one small thing you agree with that they do, but all the other shit is wicked, make that make sense.
Give
Like,
some
you got to
examples.
make it make sense.
Give us some examples. I'm listening.
Examples of what, like, of course, I'm neither a fan or Trump or of Biden, but what I do know is this: Trump never did apologize about trying to have those five boys from the Central Park Five executed for a rape they didn't commit. He has never done that. He has never done that. So to me, how can some years later, all of a sudden he's okay for Black people, and he never did that? He tried to have those. He tried to, and he's been accused of rape. Whether he did it or not, he had to go to court for that. But he tried to convict, well, wanted those guys to be executed for a rape they didn't commit. And then when they got off, he still refused to acknowledge or apologize for that. Now, some people can say, well, that's pride or whatnot. Whether it's pride or whether it's straight up bigotry or whatever it is, it's still wrong. So I need someone to tell me how that man can be okay for wanting to do things right by Black people. And then all the courts, all the judges he's
Okay, so
appointed.
let's just can we just look at that issue? I like to
Let's
look
go
at that
ahead.
issue because I'm a person like in the 1980s, which I think that happened in. Trump was widely accepted by people of color. You would agree, correct? He's in from 1981 to 2007. He's in every rap song that you can talk about. He supported after that happened. He supported Jesse Jackson's run for presidency. After that happened, he supported the Black Panthers, and so I'm thinking that to say
Yeah,
that that
that's
thing was
documented that he supported the Black Panthers. Where is that
not only is it
documented at?
documented, you can Google
The Black Panthers.
the Black Panthers.
That
He
Trump,
also he
I would
also
definitely do
he
that, because
also he
I have
also
yet to ever
supported
see that.
he also supported Jesse Jackson's. He paid for Jesse Jackson's a lot of his presidency, his run. And so the question is, he was in alignment with the Democratic infrastructure for a long time. In 2014, when he unaligned himself with it, that's when he became a Democratic idiot, per se. Then no one else liked him. Then the narrative in public changed about him. And so we can pull up a million rap songs that he's in right now during that period
I,
that the
I mean,
same
putting up.
individuals.
I mean, him being in rap songs. Those rappers that spoke about him in a lot of, it was something in a lot of those songs. Not, maybe not all of them were speaking about in terms of just the money part. He don't mind if you patronize and stand in his hotels. The record still shows how from the 70s and 80s, his father and them were not renting to Black tenants. It's like, as someone can pull up one thing to try to justify one thing, there's another thing that shows he did the opposite. Like, I can say this. People a lot of times be like, well, so and so, such and such is not a racist person. She dates a black guy, or he dates a white girl. But check this out. Slave owners owned slaves and they was raping slaves, and it didn't matter. Now, this is of a person's free will. Just because somebody is benefiting from somebody, it doesn't mean that in their mind that they still don't have a certain sentiment. When he came down that escalator, when he started that birther situation towards Barack Obama, because he became president, even though I was a young boy growing up in the 80s, America was still kind of mostly conservative, was still mostly conservative from the Reagan area. It was highly unlikely that Jesse Jackson was going to win the presidency.
He was
Okay,
leading. You do know he
but
was
when
leading.
Barack Obama,
Hold
but
on.
when
You do know he was leading until he said something about the Jewish community. Let's stop there. Jesse Jackson was leading the race. It wasn't until he said something about the Jewish community did he start to lose the race. Let's
he was
let's go with the
he was
numbers.
leading what? He was leading the Democratic race.
He was
Is what you're saying?
leading. He was leading the race. He was in the actual race. He could have won until he said something about the Jewish community. He lost all of his funding, and he started to lose the pejoratives, the super PACs that were backing him.
Okay, well, that's something that I would have to look up too, because I didn't know he was leading the overall presidential. I'm thinking, looking at as far as from on the Democratic side before they decide or whatnot. Because I mean, he was going up against what Reagan in '84. Reagan wasn't losing. '80 and '84. I mean, America was conservative as conservative can be. But I'm saying,
Jesse Jackson went to the Ayatollahs and had people who were military men released from Iran. He was a hero at that time. And
yeah,
Reagan couldn't do anything at that particular time, if in my opinion. So aligning himself with the Iranians and being able to talk to them and have the military men released and simultaneously saying something against the Jewish community who does not like the Iranian community, to me, caused him harm. But I think that he would have been a great, at that time, now we know he's a gatekeeper. So that's a whole nother conversation. But at
yeah.
that time, right.
Okay, well, swinging back the pendulum towards Trump in the sense of his his visceral towards President Obama. Like he himself started the whole birthday issue, and when he felt like when he felt like he got clowned at that roast, he decided he wanted to run for president, and that's what he did. And what folks, what gets me is everyone shrouds him as this shroud bit or say he's this shroud businessman. A lot of his shit has went bankrupt. He's been come under fraud. He inherited his stuff, of
Good
course.
businessmen go bankrupt, just so you
Well,
know.
I mean, not all. Some do, but not all. But we talking about when it came to like stuff for fraud. Like I said, for everything that someone tries to make an excuse for them, there's some things that just not that are unexcusable. It's like look at it. It should be the same way if you looked at a black man, a Latino man, or anybody. But that privilege and that persona that's deemed in American fabric that it's this white man. No, I just some folks just don't want to acknowledge that, but it's been around for years and centuries and centuries. But all I'm saying is that you know when you said about the rappers Pac and his interview said a lot about Trump, not in a way that some folks was deeming because they were staying in his hotel and money, about how he did some things and how he was still able, how the hypocrisy was when it came to a white man and a black man. If you look at some of Pac's old interviews before he, went to prison or whatnot, and a lot of that stuff had just, I mean, not just, but as he got into the news, got into the office, and then all this stuff, it's starting to come out. And every time it comes out, you'll have this cult of people like this man didn't stand up there and incite them folks to go do the January 6th riot or insurrection. Like this man didn't say put some bleach and whatever it was in a syringe when the COVID first came about. People got amnesia 4 years ago when that shit happened. Well, some people have. And so I'm trying to understand how they think that if he gets back in there, he's gonna do something better when all he keeps making shit about is himself and being vindictive of his adversaries. You know what I'm saying? That's what I don't get, how people are acting
Why
like
don't
they
you
don't
ask
see
me? I
that.
mean, you can ask me because I think he should go back in office.
I
You
don't
can
think
ask
neither
me
one of them should
specifically.
be in office, but definitely not, you know. And then if they're gonna do that, then every innocent black man, black woman, Latino woman, anybody who has a felony, that shit needs to be expunged. Like, he's been
What?
convicted of that.
So so
He,
so
he
you're
he's been
saying
he
so you're saying that
I said
a
innocent.
person so you're saying that 34 counts of a person not putting something in a book is a felony. So you might want to go to your common law courts and understand that if there is not a victim, there is not there is not a felony. But that's just basic law. But let's just go to advanced law. So in advanced law, what was the crime that he did? What was the crime that he did? Can you extrapolate on that for me? Because I can extrapolate on it. So I'm listening.
Go ahead and extrapolate. All I
No,
know
no,
is
no. You're
no, no,
saying
no,
that he
no, no.
committed a
I mean,
felony, so obviously you know what the felony was.
based on what they showed in the news, like they show everything else pertaining to the red side and blue side, that when he paid the hush money and
Which
lie,
is
like,
not illegal. That's not illegal.
and he had whatever that was pertaining to towards the election, because he felt that was going to hurt his chances of being elected.
That's not illegal either.
Like I said, I
That's
glanced
not
at
even
that. I
what
didn't
the
go.
felonies are about, just so you know. The felonies are not about
But
hush
then,
money.
like I said,
The felonies are
so
not
then what
about
is the felonies about?
are not about the felonies are that they're saying that he because he was in a campaign that he couldn't use his own money, which I didn't know a person couldn't use their own money. That's the first time because we can go back to the $850,000 that Clinton paid Paula Jones and no indictments came. So we know that this was political. Let's just start there. And so if that's the case, then we got to go back to the $1.7 million that Barack Obama did. Let's just say that that's political. And so now we're talking about 150 to $300,000 that Trump paid. Come on, this was a witch hunt, and we can't call it anything different. And so to say that you didn't write something in a book that was a campaign fund when it actually came from your own pockets, and you want to call that a campaign violation, that in its deepest sense of common sense don't make sense to me. And so you can say whatever the red side or the blue side said against it, but that don't make sense. And it
So
will never make sense to me. And
that
to
him
call him a
that
felon
case
and to hold
that
me, I'll
that
let you talk. To call
go
him a
ahead.
felon, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, because you looked at everything with this. I've glanced at it because he had multiple cases, but they shut down the other ones. But privilege will get you that.
Partly so because they're all politically
The
done.
man was on the phone in Georgia saying, being recorded about the votes, like
Because the
that
votes
and
were
then and so then with the family.
did you go to the county? I went and county news. I went and watched the county commissioner say that votes were missing. So did you just see that 2-3 weeks ago? Because now we all have access to it, right? So we can all go to now. We can go to the 3 counties that he was talking about and see that it's 380,000 votes missing. That's no
Wow.
that's not news anymore. We know that it's the truth. He was telling the truth. And so to say that those 380,000 votes were not missing when we have the county commissioner admitting that it was on record now, to even be talking about this is a moot point. And so I'm saying nothing about that was illegal because we know that they're missing. And I'll be glad to put it on your page, Glenn. I'll go back and find it.
So
Because
so did they
I like to be fact checked.
so did they drop those 34 charges?
No, they're still saying that it's a RICO charge. And this is why it's politically motivated. You say if any one of us would call a commissioner and say, you need to check this. And that's something that you need to say if you think that something is illegally happening. If 3 of us think something is illegal to happen, we should call and say something. And so to say that because he's the president that he can't say that he thinks something is happening when he actually knows that it's happening, then he needs to call. And so, but here's the thing. We now know based on what the commissioner said in the meetings. We have the legal precedents from their meeting minutes. 2, we have the actual meeting minutes on Google now. And we also have them on YouTube. So you can go look at them yourself. Wow. So we know he was right. And so to mention that is for us to go with a narrative on TV. And this is what I'm talking about. And Jerry, I respect you in your position, so I'm not attacking you.
Oh, I'm not worried about that, man. I mean, everybody's gonna have their take.
We're brothers.
They're gonna have their take, but
and mine is not a take.
Yeah,
mine
it's
is
just
I used to go
it's just
by
like
facts because you said in the early. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I mean, a lot of things have come out that was there out at the beginning, and then all of a sudden, now that we're in the election year, then there's new discoveries made. There's new loopholes or new discoveries that say, wait a minute. I mean, a lot of stuff that's, I mean, I'm just saying from what cause I don't look at the shit 24/7 because I know that there's a lot of discrepancies.
I don't even have a TV in my house. Just so you
know. There's a lot of discrepancies and there's a lot of privilege going on, regardless of what. I mean, that's just my take on it, just by seeing how that so much stuff is being leveled against this man because he has done things, and everything that's being leveled against him, everything is not false. Now, there may be some things like he's done politically towards folks that could be politically done. I get that because, like I said, both sides play dirty, but for folks to think that this man's hands have been clean and it's just a witch hunt, it mesmerizes me because he has said things out of his mouth. And on that call to Georgia, he said, I don't care. I need you to find me some votes. How's that? I mean, you saying something like that, that within itself sounds like, what are you saying? That's not saying there's a discrepancy.
What I've always cautioned myself to do is not take something out of context. So, for instance, when Biden is telling Krasinski to fire the head prosecutor for his son, and then he'll release the $1 billion, we're saying that's not quid pro quo. But when Trump calls and he's saying we need to their chief, then there is something wrong with that. And so we've got to be able to look at both sides and say, okay, and I'm with you. If there's smoke, there must be fire. So I'm not saying both people are innocent. I'm just saying, for me, as I see it, as I follow, I'm not a Fox News watcher. But it's so funny because I'm a conservative, and when I say something out of my mouth, people say, you must watch Fox. I don't even have a TV in my house. And so I don't even watch the news. It's just that how I examine things from my lenses, I say, okay, was this available? Was this available? Was this available? No. So why did they come to this conclusion? You mentioned January 6th. So at no time did Trump. So the first thing is about January 6th that I want to say that Trump was very clear on, that he was, the reason that they were going to the Capitol was because senators and congressmen had found votes that were illegal. And so for him to create a riot, that would have been counterproductive to people in America who believe that the votes were illegal, were casted, could have been seen by those congressmen and senators who was going to present it. That all got spoiled by the January 6th riot. So it would not have been conducive of Trump to do that, because his thing was that we need to see what the senators and congressmen had to show us. So it would have been conducive of the Democrats to do that, because we never got a chance to see it. We never got a chance to see Rubio or the individuals from Pennsylvania talk about the illegalities of what happened in the Philly area and the Pittsburgh area. We never got a chance to see the senators from Detroit talk about what happened in the Hunter. what happened in the Huntington Arena. We never got a chance to see it. And I know that it happened myself because I was down there when they shut it down in Detroit. And so my question is, we all had questions, whether those were Democrat votes or Republican votes. We felt the people outside of those communities felt that there was some cheating going on. Now, here is the pejorative that I studied. NPR presented a presentation, and it says there were 500,000 illegal votes that were pre-votes during the send-in. And usually when that happens, it means that there's going to be the same amount of percentage of votes that happened during the actual voting. And so NPR said all of a sudden that there was zero. And so every other year for the last 400 years of American voting, when that happened, there was the percentage that matched, and this is the first time that it didn't. And so for us, we already expected there to be illegal votes. And everybody knows, if you go to any democratic system in any country besides America, that when you increase the ballot to mail-in, that we know that fraudulent activity increases. This is the only time in history, like 9/11, the only time in history that zero fraudulent votes happen.
Wow.
All I would say is this: January 6th, who was out there standing talking to the crowd that day? There was
So,
no independents or Democrats.
did you
It
look
was
at his
Trump.
whole speech? I would encourage you to, if you can still find it.
Once again, though, he was out there talking to the crowd, right? And then when they did do what they did, because that day blue lives didn't matter as much as conservatives, Republicans love to talk about blue lives matter when it comes to stuff with black people. But that day it didn't matter what they did. But when they called on him the first time, he was reluctant to call them folks from going over there because he knew what he was doing, man. I mean, that right there,
I got a
regardless of all.
question for you. If you're calling it an insurrection, this is my only question to you about this insurrection. Can you show me one person who was charged with insurrection? Just one.
I don't know the people's names. A lot of people have been charged though, and some
You
they
didn't
didn't.
ask.
Yeah,
You didn't ask
I, I
specifically.
I
It's
don't.
like
Like I said,
if it's a
I don't.
burglary. If it's a burglary, don't charge me. Don't charge me with loitering. If it's a burglary, it's a burglary. I'm saying there hasn't been one person who has been charged with insurrection. Not one.
There's
Not
people who've
one.
been. There's people.
There have been people who have pled guilty to certain other issues, and we don't even know if those individuals were actors because we can't find them in jail. But okay, find one. Find one person who was charged with insurrection who is now in jail because of insurrection. It's not one. So how can we even say it's an insurrection if nobody was charged with insurrection?
So what do you think? What do you think that was that day when you saw them folks do that? Because let
So
me say this:
here's what I want to reference.
had it been people that look like all three of us, that day would have went totally different. You and I and
Most definitely,
anybody
we
know it.
agree with that. Because when Black
Yeah.
Lives Matter, although I do not align myself with Black Lives Matter, when Black Lives Matter was there was super security on the Capitol. Now, here's my question to you, because now we have the Freedom of Information papers from Nancy Pelosi and the chief of police for the Capitol. Why did they not have extra police on staff that day? You answer me that. Because she said no, because the chief of police said no, he's not fired, and she didn't get any blame for that. But and I'm saying to you, when Black Lives Matter came, she made sure that there was because we think that the White House is in charge of the Capitol. It's not. The Capitol has its own police station. It has its own police chief, and that chief is independent of anybody in the United States.
Wow.
Only to the Capitol. It's one of the few times that happens in America outside of the Federal Reserve. They have their own chief of police also. I actually knew one of them. And so now the question is, if we're in a situation where she's saying, no, we don't need the National Guard, you got to ask yourself, why is she saying that if she thought that she's already admitted that she thought there would be an incident. So if she thought it was going to be an incident, why would we not have it? And you're saying that that's white privilege. And I'm saying, no, that's a democratic decision to be irresponsible. And the irresponsibility is what caused actors who I'm saying weren't even MAGA. One of the things that I want to go on fact for is there's a gentleman, his name is Dane Calloway. He has a he has research on the individuals being shown, like the guy who had the cow hat on. He was already in the Capitol. We have pictures of him being shown walking around, showing them where they're gonna go. We even have pictures of them where they were in the Capitol, even before they even opened the doors to the Capitol and before they started the riots. We have all of that now. And the
Wow.
question is if we have all of those people, one, the commission who did the insurrection, why did they present it? Because Dane Calloway got it. Two, we have individuals who are now infiltrators. They were hired by the FBI. We have that by Freedom of Information Act. So that means that there were people who were from the FBI and CIA who were hiding this. Why? And then the question is, we got those people on camera. Those people weren't charged, so we know they were infiltrants. And so the question is, why would we have people inciting people to go into the Capitol and do that on that day when Trump was speaking? And the other question is, why would Trump want us not to hear what we're hearing today, which is that votes were missing? Because we already know in Atlanta that's the case. We now know in Pennsylvania that's the case. And Michigan is resisting having the inspection for the fourth time. We had 1,700 people say that they saw misappropriation. And that's Democrat and Republican, and we haven't reopened it. But yet we had a CIA infiltrant who tried to kidnap the governor. Now we know it was a CIA infiltrant because we did a Freedom of Information Act on it, and they admitted it. And so for me, the question is, we've got to stop getting the narratives. Now, I agree, where there's smoke, there's fire. Am I saying that Trump or Biden or whoever runs for president is perfect? Hell, the three of us are not perfect. If we were to run for president right now, they would find some stuff on us, right? And so the question is, can we withstand the storm of what they find on us in order to get in office? I could. I'm sure you guys could. Barack Obama put it in his book, The Audacity of Hope, so that he's like, I put it in the book, so it's nothing for us to talk about. And as you talk about Trump saying about Obama being born in America versus not born in America, was he born in America? Because that answer has not pejoratively been answered. And the question is,
Honolulu, Hawaii's part of the United States. That's what his birth record said. That should have been an end of discussion there. Why
okay,
why keep at that? For what reason? What disdain did you have enough for that man that after you found what it was that you decided to go? Because it was a manner of jealousy or what have you. Because I mean, it's just,
I,
like I said once again.
so
I
I
just
have disdain for Barack. I voted for him twice. Actually, in my lifetime, I voted for every winning president except for Biden. I refused to vote. But here's the thing. I'm saying, as a person who thought that yes, we can, I was a yes, we can person. And I'm saying, as an African American male, I'm very disappointed in Barack Obama outside of actually making the presidency because he didn't do anything for his community. And I would caution you to take the time to take the stage to say, hey, he in place, or hey, he did this thing, but I'm saying no. Now, if you want to say he did something for the LGBT community, people of color, okay, then I'll have to stand. But I'm not saying that's the black people's. I'm not bashing any pride people, but I'm not saying that's our call to duty on what we should have been doing for the first things
no.
that we need to
I'm
do
not.
for
I'm
the
not saying. I'm
community.
not saying that either. And was there some things that I wish he could have done better? Yeah, of course. But overall, as being integral and knowing how to be a leader under pressure and not make shit all about himself and be reckless, you can't compare the two. I
I
mean, you can't
agree.
compare the two.
I agree, but
I
I
mean,
definitely agree for why
Donald
you're
Trump is
saying
the
it.
person
Because
everything makes about
his
himself, man.
He's responsible for killing Gaddafi. So you're saying that you think Gaddafi should have been killed?
Once
Quick answer,
again,
yes or no?
once again, man, if regardless of that situation right there,
No,
like I
no,
said, there's
no.
some things
Responsible
that I did.
leadership.
No, no,
I
no.
think it was totally
I'm gonna answer.
irresponsible.
I'm gonna answer. Yeah,
Okay, sorry about
I,
that.
I'm gonna answer like I desire to answer. What I'm saying is everything that he done during his presidency. Do I think he could have done some things better? Yes,
Mm,
that was questionable because the perception of Gaddafi was one way until I had to study myself on some
thank
things
you.
with Gaddafi. But overall, being a leader and trying to do stuff for people in general and not making shit about himself, being vindictive and all this stuff that we got for 4 years with Trump. There's no comparison whether you are a Democrat, Republican, whether you liked Obama or not. And to go back for another 4 years when this man is constantly saying things out of his mouth because he know who's going to check him. All the folks who are kissing his ring now that are Republicans all have been documented on not only on the Fox News
Can we
station but
stop
in
that?
just,
Can we stop that?
I mean
Can
they've
we
been
stop?
documented saying stuff against
Can you
him,
do me a
but
favor?
now
Can you do me a respectful favor? I'm not
what's
kissing
that?
Trump's ring because I like him, and neither the people kissing his ring because they like him. Like I could say you're kissing Obama's ring, but it's that's
I'm not kissing
yeah.
Obama's
I
ring.
don't
I
like
just
when people do that.
I,
Let's
no,
keep
no.
it
But
neutral.
I'm calling a spade of what I see. Folks who said he's not fit. He has these charges. He has these character questions and all of this. But now that they can't get over it, the people who want to vote for him, or we're gonna get behind him, even if it just so we can win, even if it's gonna cause another bigger division in this country. But you say you love country, you say you love God, but you don't like a certain sector of people because they don't agree with you. That is not loving country or loving God. That is a person who just want power and control. And the good Lord that I serve would never let that happen. And when it happens, then you're gonna see chaos because this is the type of bullshit propaganda they put out here. You cannot disguise racism, sexism, and all this stuff, and then say you love God. Trump is this man held the Bible up backwards for a photo op, man. I mean, and these folks that who's supposed to be conservative Christians, evangelicals, are falling behind that because they know he's serving their interests for their children. That's the stuff I'm talking about. Now we can go to Biden with the 94 crime bill. I get that. And I didn't like that either. And his cognitive skills seem to be
You
so
everywhere, bro. Come on,
no,
you
no,
got
no.
we.
I'm a person who can look at both sides of the spectrum because some people feel like you gotta pick a side and no matter right or wrong, stand with that side. I'm gonna look at the pros and cons of both, and I'm gonna state the obvious of what I've seen regardless of whether it's on TV or just in policies and stuff that's
Mhm.
being stripped under. I mean, and the whole gerrymandering, which is under conservatives, Republicans, man. Like, why, if it was
What?
really truly supposed to be, if it was truly supposed to
Gerrymandering
be,
is under Republicans. Give me, because when I look at New York, that's a Democratic state, and they're the people who are sending Mexicans there so that they can change the pejorative districts for voting. When I look at it here in the Chaldean section in Michigan, when I see the same thing happening in Chicago, when I see the same thing happening in Euclid, when I see the same thing can happen in Southwest DC, when I see the same thing happen in Third Ward in Houston, when I see the same thing happening in Sixth Ward in New Orleans, I've been to those spots, and I've seen the people change in those areas, and I've seen the Democrats do that exactly for gerrymandering. Now, I would invite you to name a place, because I continue on. I can go to Oakland in California. I can go to Maricopa County in Arizona, because I've been to those places. I can go to Denver. I've been to those places where gerrymandering has happened. So if you're going to name
so
something,
so
name a
all so
place.
all those places, no, all those places were strictly liberals who did that. No conservatives did any of that. That's what you're saying? Because down in Louisiana, I got some friends down there. Down in Louisiana, the Republican governor is doing a lot of shit that's misappropriating not only funds, but
Hold
they
on.
got a city.
You mentioned gerrymandering. I want to stick with that because that was my question to you. I just named
Yeah.
12 places that I know gerrymandering has happened from democratic society. I'm listening to your gerrymandering position and where it's happening because I'll do the research and I'll get back to us. And if I'm wrong, I'll say, hey, Clint will tell you. And so I'm saying
Yeah.
you can't just bring up something and then not have to prove because I've been to those places. I've eaten in the Shipley's Donuts in the Third Ward in Houston. I've eaten at the marketplace with the Democrats in the Sweet Berries in Euclid in Ohio. I've eaten there. I've talked to the people myself because I really enjoy researching these things and understanding what position that I can take by having information. And before you came on, Sholey, I said I was saying to the viewers, it's up to us as men of color to stand on our square. And we have to be able to have these type of conversations that we're having, first of all, so that people can agree to disagree and know that when I come to Memphis or wherever you're from, we're gonna have a nice time and have a nice little sprite together. And that don't mean that I'm against you or you're against me. We're brothers.
Huh.
And you get what I'm
Exactly.
saying? So that piece is out the window. I'm not gonna be mad at you when we go backstage from this show.
But
We're gonna have a
there's
regular
no,
conversation.
yeah.
It's gonna be love.
There's no, yeah, yeah.
Right. And
There's no,
so that
there's
piece is
no,
the
there's,
piece. And
yeah.
so when we're putting each other on the stage and saying, hey, show me what you're saying, I want to make sure that we're responsible for what we're saying. Because when I say gerrymandering, I've been to Germantown in the Philly area. I've been to Euclid in the Ohio area outside of Cleveland. I've been to the Dearborn Heights in the Chaldean area. I've been to the Third World in Houston. I've been to those places to see why. And what I'm seeing is that Democrats move by the way of social services. They move people of Latino base and or excuse me, I don't want to use that term. People who are from South America and Central America, those areas, dilute those areas to change the voting texture of that community. And Clinton and I were just talking about that. And I think it's going to backfire because it's conservative. But I invite you to tell me where gerrymandering is happening.
I'm gonna say this: the gerrymandering that I'm slightly aware of, per se, based on someone that I know that lives down in Louisiana. Because I'm like I said, a lot of these I look up some of these political terms, but I'm not as well versed as you are. That, like you said, you name the places that you've been, and you said that every gerrymandering situation was strictly liberal Democrat. Because I put those two together like conservative Republican. I put those two together because they coincide, they coexist. But
Or
down
you
there,
gonna put the Republicans in Seattle on at Q.
I haven't been there.
The
Yeah,
SeaTac area is a
but
Seattle
I
area. But
mean,
I just wanted to. I didn't want to give you a free answer. I just wanted to see if you knew where.
like I said, only place that I'm aware of what that is going on based on what I've seen in the media, but also someone who lives down there is in the Louisiana area. There's I can't think of the name that the cities I think is outside of it's either outside of Shreveport or Baton Rouge where
I'm prone to
all
believe
the
you.
black say what now? You know what I'm
I'm
talking
prone to
about?
believe you in Louisiana and Mississippi. Those are some of the areas that we're seeing it happen. So I agree with
Yeah,
you.
yeah. That's and I forgot about Mississippi because yeah, Mississippi. All, but I just know that someone who I know lives down in Louisiana because there's an area where a lot of the black residents have been well, they not there. They moved out or been voted. Something happened to where it's an area now where that it's been predominantly white residents that moved there, and they're getting the voting advantages. I don't know if it's Shreveport or if it's outside of Baton Rouge. It's one of those who is not New Orleans. But I was like, damn, that's crazy. This is in broad daylight. This is like how is this happening in 2024?
I have a
And
question for you about gerrymandering. And my question has to do with the license. Do you think it's politically racist to ask a person for their license in order to have a vote? or some identification? Because Democrats are saying that no, that's racism when you ask a person for identification in order to have them vote.
Not if you ask someone for some form of identification
Okay, all
that
right,
yeah,
so
some
we're on the
form
same
of
page.
yeah, but
We're on the same page. I can
yeah,
tell on most
yeah.
issues we're on the same page.
But in some places, folks are going above and beyond asking for identification. It's like, and that's what needs to be addressed. I mean, like I said, regardless of what spectrum someone is on, just be fair. Don't swing the pendulum to where it's being obvious you're taking a playbook from back in the 50s and 60s. Because some of that is starting to show its head, and I just don't like when people act like that's not it. That's not it. Then what is it?
So
Because
when you
it's
say the
sure
playbook,
looking like that.
can you extrapolate on
The
that so I can understand what you mean and the viewers also?
voter suppression. And you know, if a certain ID is not good enough, then now I haven't seen this as of yet. But of course, back then they had where they would give some type of test, or it will always be
Oh, I get what you're
something
saying. You're
beyond.
saying in the
Yeah,
post civil rights era when they tried to make you jump over hoops to just vote. Yeah, we agree on that. Yeah, we
yeah,
agree.
and so
Historically, that was wrong.
yeah, and some of that is certain little tactics now are trying to swing back that way, and when it does, it's disproportionately affecting black and brown communities. It's not
I
affecting
have a
anyone that's
question
not
for you
black and
about
brown.
that because I think that's hyperbole, and I'll tell you why. So in the Detroit area, Detroit is run by Democrats. Chicago run by Democrats. Cleveland run by
Chocolate City.
Democrats.
Yep.
Houston run by Democrats. And so the legislators in this area are saying that they have issues with voting issues, but they're the people who actually control the vote. I mean, they control the laws. So I can see if you were saying somewhere like Peoria, Illinois, or Sioux Falls, Idaho, or Gillette, Wyoming. But those people traditionally are Republican. And so they're not having an issue with how they vote. It's only in the urban areas that are Democrat that have issues, but those are led by Democrats. So why do you
But they
guys have issues? Hold on. Why do you guys have an issue with it if you're the people who are leading it?
well, like I said, once again, I'm more of an independent, even though some things I may lean towards if it's a Democratic policy. But when you look at those pockets of those cities are, with the exception of Houston, because Houston is in a red state. Texas is bigger than Houston and Dallas. Dallas and Houston swing blue. The rest of Texas, all them other little counties and stuff, red. When they turn in the votes, the governor, red. The people in the state senate, predominantly red. Now in Illinois and Michigan,
It's
you
50-50.
got your pockets of red, but the bigger cities like Detroit and Chicago, because I'm born in Chicago, may be blue. And then the discrepancies there, now that's questionable. The shit be happening, but like where there's southern states like Texas, where Houston is blue, Dallas is kind of blue, but everything else is red. Come on, I mean that's a no-brainer. Georgia,
So
what
ho ho
flipped
ho ho ho
Georgia?
ho ho. When you say it's a no-brainer, are you saying that the Democratic? Because my theory is that if you have Democrats leading those areas, like in Houston they do, like in Dallas they do, and you're saying that the suppression is happening in those cities, but the
I
cities
didn't
are
say that.
led by Democrats.
I'm not saying the suppression itself is happening in those cities. Once they submit whatever votes that they have to the state, the state of Texas is red. Let's make that clear. State of Texas is red. Outside of the little pockets of Houston, Dallas, and Fort Worth, every other of them little counties red. In Georgia, outside of Atlanta and I think maybe Augusta, everything is red. What flipped Georgia to Biden was, um, of course, Atlanta,
Illegal votes, three
Augusta.
hundred and eighty thousand of them. It's been proven now. Same thing in North Carolina. Same thing in South
Why is
Carolina.
that not plastered? Why is that not plastered in the news? That it's been because they were plastered in the news. It's been proven
That's my
that
point.
380,000 votes.
Hold on, I'm gonna go get it. I'll make sure. I'll make sure, Clint, that is on your page. So everybody can see it. I'll make sure that you're
Hey, hey, y'all.
380,000 votes are missing,
So
or
look at
were
this,
extra.
man. So what Stephanie Burns is saying, if an elderly person is homebound and they want you to vote, if a person help them, they can be charged with a crime. They're not allowed. They're not allowed to help them.
That is. Here's the thing. The question is that a person who is able to vote has to be able to actually fill the paperwork out themselves because they're voting. There's a level of comprehension that voting requires. Or else, if I'm your administrator, let's say, for instance, Clint, I'm your administrative person. I have the power of attorney over you, and I fill out your paperwork, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
you're Democrat, but I'm Republican. Do I have the right, because I have the power of attorney over you, to now say that your vote is Democrat? No, I don't. And so her question and her comment is really a respectful one, because yes, you cannot do that. That is illegal. We can't do that. And so the question is, should the person be helped and assisted? Yes, because there are times that people may need help getting to the spot or need help signing in the right area. But should they be led to make a decision? No, that's illegal.
Yeah. Gotcha. Man, look, I want this to keep going. It's 10 o'clock our
Man, this
time, man.
Jerry,
Yep.
I miss you, man. I wish you'd have came a little earlier because I like
Man,
the
I'm telling you.
first of all, I like how you present things in a respectful way, because
Yeah.
we've
Yeah,
got to
man.
learn how to do that. We've got to learn how to do that without personally attacking each other.
Exactly.
But
I'm
then,
big on that.
and so I want to say I appreciate you for that. And then
Hold on.
there aren't a lot of spaces where people who have differences in political views can actually talk and have conversations, so that people can say, "Oh, I didn't know that," or now you got me going to look at the Louisiana thing because I didn't know that." You see what I'm saying? So I'm
Yeah.
gonna
And
look at it.
I didn't realize that about some of the cities that you named, that it was, it was more liberal folks doing that. I just know that things that a lot of times, that whether I see it through the news or folks who live in a certain area that I know from school or whatnot, that's in the political rank. Because I got a cousin or a classmate. He's like a cousin to me, but we share a cousin, but we're not directly kin. He's the mayor of Little Elm, Texas, which is right outside of Dallas. First ever elected black mayor, just got elected his second term.
Congratulations, bro.
And yeah, and but he's seen a lot of things, and he's just like, I when I decided to step into politics, JD, man, I didn't know it was gonna be like this, but he's like, I'm in it to do what I can to help all people in the city and whatnot. And he got reelected a second term.
Congratulations.
And Lil Elm is right outside of Dallas area, but there's still, of course, a lot of work to be done in a lot of areas. Folks have mentioned to me about politics. I'm like, no, I'm good on that. I just, you got to really have a passion for it, and to me, you got to have a passion for it, and you got to be willing to do what's right, even when folks who's supposed to follow you may not understand it. Because at the end of the day, you're supposed to serve the people, not necessarily the party. And we're seeing a lot of things now where people say they for the people, but they're more aligned with a party or certain views, and it's gonna hurt whoever it may help. It's gonna hurt so many more, and that's a recipe for disaster.
And I
That's
respect
my
that. I
opinion.
respect how you
And yeah,
place that.
yeah,
And what I would say to that is, like, for me, I used to be an independent, and what I found is that I usually vote for what my conscience says locally, regionally, state, and federal, right? And so what's so great about that is that in some areas I vote Democratic because the people align with me. Like, one of my positions is that I think there should be pro-choice, pro-choice queued, meaning the father should have pro-choice, the mother should have pro-choice, and the child should have pro-choice, right? And the reason that I say that is because if we're saying that everybody should have pro-choice, because really what pro-choice is pro-life, if you really think about it, right? But how does the child express, if the child is in the mother's stomach, how does the child express their choice? If the father was the person who gave the seed, what choice does the father have? If the mother is carrying her body, what choice does the mother have? And I'm not a Republican on this. I'm not a Democrat on this. I pray to God about it. And he's telling me that everybody should have a choice. And the question is, how do we express for a child who is in the mother's stomach what choice that child has to make? And so there's some difference that I have on some things. But the reason that I came to that is because I think that it's the most comprehensive. And that's what everybody who's under the sound of our voice, I'm asking you to come to some level of comprehensive understanding of why you do what you do and why you vote for the person you vote. And I'm with you, Jerry. Don't vote for somebody because they're just a part of this party or that party. Align yourself with people who you feel like, you know what, I'll look through this. I hear what everybody else is saying. I disagree with them. And for Trump, I hear what everybody else is saying, and I disagree with them. And I'm not saying there is no smoke, and I'm not saying there may not be fire. I'm just saying that my food was cheaper, my gas was cheaper, we weren't at war. As a businessman, I own a construction company where I build commercial and residential products. My pocketbook was fatter. And I'm saying right now with Biden, I've over the last 20, 35 years, this is the most that I've ever been taxed. And it's for reasons that Biden did. And so my question,
But
just for common sense issues, Biden is not good for me as a businessman.
you do know this: when someone has served even one term, but more or less two terms, some of the policies they put in effect really go in, really start kicking in once they're out of office.
I
So
would
when
I
people
would
say when people say it looked like it was like this under Trump, Obama had just came out of office. Every time he would propose some, of course, even if it was good for everyone, just because a certain sector of Republicans didn't like the fact that this black man was running the country, they would spite it. Even though, and then he got some things passed through that did benefit folks, but some of it didn't take effect to after him, especially in his second term, after him leaving office. The next beneficiary who came in office, which ended up being Trump instead of Hillary, it would make it look like it would seem deemed like he did this. But then as it got closer and we stepped into the COVID area, we saw how he handled that. We saw the immaturity, the being vague, and then the shit get over here, and it's like, and you're telling folks, well, just, I mean, I won't ever forget that. And I'm like, and it's like, it's just certain things folks have to, if you're gonna remember what you think is good, definitely remember what wasn't and
most
outweigh the
definitely.
options.
I'd
Yeah.
love to speak to that. First of all, Obama sucked with his financial infrastructure. We crashed 3 times under him. So much so that our financial infrastructure had to have what's called a handicap. I want our listeners to look up what's called quantitative easing. Look at it. Quantitative easing is it's called QE 1 through 12. Quantitative easing is the equivalent of if you and Clint scored 300 in bowling, but y'all know I only do 90, y'all gonna give me 310 on my score even before we start so that I can just stay in the race with you guys. That's what quantitative easing is financially to America. And and Obama introduced quantitative easing to our financial system to make it appear that America was not struggling when we were. So when Trump came into office, he did not come into a situation that was hunky dory. So let me just put that out there, and we can all Google quantitative easing, and we can all see that Obama used it all 8 years of his presidency. So what you're saying is equivalently not accurate. Now, I do agree that there have been times that presidents have done something and then the next president have to deal with it. So what we saw with Clinton put in the Banking Modernization Act. That act allowed banks to deregulate mortgages so that when Obama actually got in offices, he was dealing with the mortgage issues that Clinton had put in place in his regulations. So I agree with you about that. But to say that Trump didn't make clear
So
tariffs,
so
he did.
so
One of
you
the
saying
clear tariffs
Obama?
that he did. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You saying Obama? You saying from Clinton? You missing a whole 8 years of W, who ran the country damn near into the ground. That when Obama took office, he had to bail the banks out of. Right? Did that
Well,
not happen?
so hold on. Why did the banks get bailed out? Because they were deregulated by the Banking Modernization Act. The Banking Modernization Act. Please, somebody Google fact me and check me. The Banking Modernization Act was signed by President Clinton, and it was not Bush. It was Bush who inherited all his deregulation issues. So you can Google that, please. But the deregulation of the banks by the Banking Modernization Act is what Obama inherited. He didn't inherit that from Bush. He inherited that from Clinton. And so we can go look at the acts and see that that's what happened. So there's no debate on that. But the other issue is, because he inherited those things, the narrative that the media press is that Bush did that and Bush did not. Bush didn't even touch the Modernization Act. He could have. Now, if you want to blame him for not repealing what Clinton did, but now we know Clinton and Bush were in the bed, and now we know Clinton, Bush, and Obama were in bed together. So that's a whole nother issue. But the issue is that the Banking Modernization Act, for the reason why the banks were bailed out, was because of Clinton. Two reasons: the NAFTA, North America Free Trade Agreement, which Clinton signed, and the Banking Modernization, which Clinton signed. And that's what Obama had to inherit. So if you want to say something
Now you
different than
do
that,
know
then you can
Clinton.
name the act. I'll be glad to hear
Yeah,
it.
well, I mean, all I'm gonna say is this: you do know when Clinton was in office, he balanced the budget. Once Bush got in office, we got back in the deficit.
Okay, so
That can be fact checked.
let's yeah,
I'm just saying, since
I'm not
yeah,
disagreeing with that. But
okay.
if any three of us were president during the time that the internet came into existence, we would have all had uh, a surplus. You know why? Because Clinton allowed the IRS to allow companies to have two sets of books, and you can track this. They had a set of books for the internet because we didn't know how to tax the internet, and then we had a set of for the actual company itself. So we had two sets of books for each company who went into the technological sector. So of course, if you have two sets of books and you can inflate things irrationally for which they're putting the same things that they're putting Trump in jail for on real estate, which every real estate broker does, is what they did in the technology sector, which is what Obama had to deal with. And so, yes, Bush did have an issue with the community, but what Bush did was he took the surplus and he gave it back to the people. I agree with that. I think that the surplus should have went back to the people, because when have we agreed that government spending is good? Never. There's nothing that I can say that the government has spent things on that was not a situation of giving a person a fish versus teaching the people how to fish. What situation have we seen the government do where we've seen them teach people how to fish versus just giving them free fish? I've not.
Nah, nah, we honestly got to continue this some other
I
time,
love to
man.
continue with that.
Yeah, man, it's good. And honestly, Rob, that's why I wanted both of y'all on here, man. Because I knew both of y'all were some bright
This brother
gentlemen,
is
man.
bright.
So
You're a bright brother,
yeah,
man. I
man.
can't wait to chop it up with you in person, man.
It's all
Yes,
Where
good.
sir.
are you from the Tennessee area, Memphis, or
Nah, man, I was born in the Shy, so I'm Chicago
okay,
baby. But my
okay.
dad was Navy, so I lived a lot of places. Florida, and finished high school in Arkansas, and went to Tennessee State. So
Okay, so we would
yeah.
have had a Jordan Isaiah beef, but outside of that, we was good.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
Because Chicago and
Yeah.
Detroit get along
Hey.
very well outside of that.
Hey,
Hey,
real quick before y'all go, who between Jordan, Braun, who to go, man?
For me, it's just Jordan. Come on. I
Jen?
mean,
yeah.
I mean, Jordan wasn't a flopper to me. Like
Right.
Bron is a flopper. Like his. It's nice that he's in LA because he's a Hollywood player. I'll just leave it like that. But
Yeah,
Of course.
I'll tell you what I do respect about him. I respect him off the court.
me
I
too,
think he's the
man.
Yeah.
GOAT off the court because he has a school. He took his
Yeah,
schoolmates and he made them
yeah.
multimillionaires. You can't talk. You can't say anything about him about that.
Right.
Yeah.
Reason
He's
why
a
I asked
very
that, Jerry, because you from Detroit, man. I mean, from the Shy, and I know Rob from Detroit, man. So you got.
Yeah.
I'm a big Isaiah Thomas
It's
fan
hard.
too.
It's hard for
Yeah.
me to say that Jordan is the GOAT, being an Isaiah fan, but he's the GOAT.
Yeah,
Yeah. Well, I
yeah,
mean, I'm gonna say, of course, I'm gonna say Jordan, but far as off the court, LeBron. Far
Yeah.
as just being a freak of nature, I would say LeBron. But
of course.
killer instinct, I'm gonna always go with Jordan and Kobe. Those are my two. Those are my two favorite
Like
players.
real talk, I even put Kobe over LeBron. How
Yeah,
about
Yeah,
that?
me
man.
too.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Real
sir.
Yeah,
talk.
I do. I do.
Yes,
I
sir.
Now we agree. Kobe was my age, and Kobe and Mike and Kobe just got that killer instinct. Like they're gonna get their teammates involved, but damn, if y'all not carrying the weight, they're gonna we gonna take care of it.
And I think what got it for me about Kobe versus LeBron was on those two Olympic teams, and they didn't do anything. As soon as
Yeah,
they had the same teams, and then Kobe came on, guess what? They got gold because he's
yeah.
different caliber up here.
Yeah,
That's what Jerry was saying. Hey, Ken, I see Kenny Dukes is watching, man. Thank you for tuning in. We're about to jump off now, man. I was just messing with them about Kobe and LeBron. So they were just discussing the political
We
issues.
about
But
to
hey,
get in some
y'all,
trouble with our folks.
listen, y'all, we
I got
man,
the youth that I lead here, man. They love LeBron, and
yeah.
sometimes I'm even quiet. It's even worse than saying you a Trump. If you say it's even worse than saying Trump. If you say look, you like Jordan over LeBron, to some youth age groups, they like, bro, you a hater.
oh
Well,
But
but
yeah.
like,
yeah, I would say this before we get off. The one thing
Yes,
that I
sir.
learned, LeBron has he's piped down a little bit of that complaining to the ref, but someone who showed me by looking at them consistently in the playoffs that this is what they do was
Luca.
Luca. I was like, damn, Luca, you play good. Why are you constantly? And he gonna if he wants to get there, he gonna have to stop that
to
because
me,
Yeah.
they
it's like
lost the championship because he's a crybaby.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
If he would have just locked in and stayed his mind in the game, as opposed to looking at the ref, it'd have been a different series. I don't know if Boston or Mavs would have won, but when he was locked in, they blew him out. And so that
He,
was my issue. I agree with you on that. And
I,
here's
I
the
think
other.
Dallas would have won at least one or two more, man. He
I'll
just
tell you. I'll tell you what else I like about LeBron on the court is that you wouldn't see Larry Bird having lunch with Isaiah, having lunch with Magic, having lunch with MJ. You wouldn't see that, but you see LeBron off court having business ventures with his enemies on the court. That's a big issue for me. I like that. They can be enemies on the listen. We leave it all on the court, but when we off the
yeah.
court, we can go to IHOP and create some more
But see
situations.
that's that generation difference.
I like
That's
that.
one of the positive. That's one of
Yes,
the
I
few
like that.
positive. Some of the other things would be like but that's one of the few positives because it's like it's competition, but off the court, we black men, we leading our families, we whatever we doing, okay, you know what I'm saying. Now we get on the court, it's me against you, but off it, they don't. A lot of them don't let it carry over.
that,
Now
that,
they
that,
style of dress is different, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
yeah.
can't.
Oh boy. Oh
Yeah.
boy.
Hey, Rob, I don't know if you remember what was the guy, Taurus Bradford. I don't know if you remember Taurus, dark skinned guy. It was a while back. It was last year sometime he came on. But anyway, Taurus went to Fraser High School. I went to Tresvant. We played against each other.
Oh
Now,
boy.
to this day, we were rivals. To this day, man, if we see each other on the court, we don't talk. We don't shake hands. We don't off the court, man.
Not happening.
Yeah, off the court.
Not.
I'm talking about as soon as the game over, we meet up outside, man. We can't stop hugging and talking about the children, whatever. But when we on the court, and the
Yeah.
killer part is Trez and our colors was purple and gold. Frazier, theirs was green. So it was like LA, Boston. We hated each other, man. So I like the fact that even when y'all were discussing the political things, man, y'all can disagree and come together at the end. And it's like, hey, man,
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
what brothers got to be
listen,
able to do. We
I
got to
yeah,
want the
be able to do
children to
that.
see that, man. Like, man, this is what I'm talking about. We can disagree, And man, this thing, Jerry and Rob, man, it could go so far out, man. Okay, now the husband can look at the wife and say, "Dang, you know what? We can agree to disagree and still be
Right.
good." The children can look at the child next door and say, "I know we got the fighting earlier, but man, I really like the game you got over there. I like your game, man. Look, come on, man." I mean, it really, when people can see stuff like this, and we're international. I know people may say it's only 5 people on the screen. Maybe
Right.
so many people watching that don't click in, man. It's people watching in other countries. It's people watching in Alabama. Man, if people can see this on a regular, man, this is a heavy seed that's planted, man. I'm telling you.
Yes,
So
sir.
I
Yeah,
appreciate y'all,
yeah.
man. I
And
hate to
we've
have to
got to
end it
be
here,
we've
but
got to have these safe spaces where we can talk
yeah,
about what we think openly without being attacked. And we've
exactly.
got to be able to express our ideas because Jerry, you can express an idea in a different way. I might not agree with the reason that you're addressing it, but your thought process behind it, I'm like, I never thought about it like that. I'm going to start to now, when I think about something and I'm putting a lens on something, I can use that thought process that you just gave me
Yeah.
to use that process to look through that lens on it.
Yep. Yep. Oh man, I don't know what happened there. But anyway, Jerry, man, we go roll, man. Y'all been great,
Okay,
man. I
man.
appreciate you coming on, man. But
Yeah,
we got to
man.
link
Like
up
I
again.
said,
We got
I'm
to link
glad I
up,
was
man.
able to make it in before was able to get here once I got back from
Yeah.
hanging out with my dad, man. That was planned for this evening. So, you know what I'm saying? I'm
Cool.
trying to get that time, man.
Cool.
But yeah, but it's all good, man. Definitely any other things that come about that I have the time to get on with any other discussion, man. We gotta have this, man, because
Yeah.
with a whole gamut of things, because a lot is going on, and we need to be able to. Black people are not a monolith. We gonna have our differences of opinion, but that don't mean we can't still at the end of the day show some form of unity. Other folks do,
Exactly, man.
and
Yeah.
that's all. That's how I look at it. Whether I agree with you or not, we being respectful. We can respectfully disagree, and I had no problem. It's just when folks be like, "Oh, you wrong," da da da. Like, hold up, bro, come on, chill out.
It's just an
So
opinion.
anything outside of that, man, it's but it was a good talk with Rob, and I mean he enlightened me to some things that I'm gonna look up because I follow certain things, but I don't follow it to a T because I got other stuff going on. But I
Yeah.
do know what I do see, and I'm like, okay, and I'm like, and then I do remember what I do remember doing 4 years ago. So I'm just like, I'm looking at everything from that perspective, like, and trying to deductively reason what's gonna make things better a second time around. But we'll all find out. And election day is the day before my birthday. Hopefully, I'll be somewhere out of the country for my birthday. But I'm on my birthday trip or whatnot. But whichever the case is, whether I'm here or not in the country or out on vacation or whatever the case is, I just hope people do their due diligence because, like, we studied about Jim Crow growing up. I never thought in a million years that the likelihood of something similar to that would come back in my lifetime.
Yeah. Hey, I said the same thing, man. I I I was talking to a friend, man. I was like, man, I just can't believe we're seeing what my dad and them saw, and my granddad and them saw, man.
Yeah.
It's just crazy, man. But either way, um, hey Rob, Jay, I know you just popping back on, Rob. Man, listen, we go get with y'all another time, man. I'm gonna let the people get
I
some
look
rest,
forward to
man.
that, brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we
Same,
got
Hey,
same
another
here,
Jerry,
guy,
man.
much love to you, brother.
Kenny
Hey,
Dukes,
same
man.
to you, Rob. When you come down, let me know when you get with Clinton. We can all meet up and go grab some
I
wings
look
or
forward.
something.
I
Please,
look forward to that. Clint talk about
Okay.
please.
all this basketball talk. I want to see what he about.
Hey,
You
let's
know what
do it,
I'm
man.
saying?
Hey,
I keep
look,
my ball in my gym shoes in the car, baby.
let's do it, man. Look, I'll do that, but I ain't gonna get out there on that football field with Jerry, man. Jerry,
Nah,
not,
Jerry looked like he'd run through it,
he ain't
bro.
knocking my helmet off. We
Yeah,
go.
he looked like Ray Lewis to me. I
Yes,
don't
sir.
know.
Yes, sir. I told him, man, you my friend for life now, Doc. So hey, I got any issue, you gotta see JD. Hey, but y'all
All
have a
right,
great
man.
night, man.
Yeah, I'll be
Much
safe,
love to you
brother.
guys.
All
Peace
right.
out, man.
No, no.